ahead and adjourn to closed session. We'll be back here in about 29 minutes. test. Okay. Good evening. Am I on? Yeah, I thought I did. Good evening. Good evening, everybody. We're ready to start. We're going to go ahead and call our open session to order. The first thing we're going to do is our Pledge of Allegiance. If you'd like to join me, stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Just prior to this, the board met in closed session. We took action on a number of items. I'm going to report those items out now, if I can see in the dark up here. Got to do the old man thing, turn the phone on. All right. On item 2.2, the board adopted resolution number 2323, releasing a temporary certificated employee hired for the 2023-2024 school year. That resolution passed on a vote of 4-0 with one member absent. On item 2.3, pupil personnel, the board approved the readmission of case number 123/24 to the Roseville Joint Union High School District. That was also on a vote of 4-0 with one absent. And on item number 2.4, the board took action to approve a settlement agreement on case number 2023080505, and that passed on a vote of 4-0 with one absent. Pass that back down to John. All right, meeting protocols. As you all know, we have an opportunity for members of the public to address the board. Those opportunities occur at different times. First, we have an open public comment section, and that's for any items that are not on the agenda. So if you'd like to address the board for any items not on the agenda, if you turn in a card, I will call your name. You'll also have the opportunity to speak on any individual agenda item if you'd like. Also, please fill out a card, and we will make sure you get called up at the appropriate time. If we have 9 or less members, there'll be a 3-minute public comment time. If we have 10 or more members of the public wishing to speak, then we'll reduce that in half to 90 seconds. The board does not condone the use of profanity, vulgar language, gestures, or any other inappropriate behavior, including personal attacks or threats directed towards any meeting participant and/or district employee. If you do have a complaint about a specific employee or employees of the district, those complaints should be made to the employee's immediate supervisor or to the school site principal as outlined in our board policies and administrative regulations. And as always, our meetings are being video recorded and are archived as well. Our next item is item 5.1. That'll be the board objectives. I'll go ahead and read those this time. The board has set objectives for our school district. Those objectives are to prepare all students for life, college, and career by providing high-quality academic opportunities and supporting students' physical, mental, and emotional health. To work in partnership with families in the community, with schools that are a welcoming, safe environment that serve as a center of learning activities, athletics, and performing arts, and promote a sense of community in the school and the surrounding community. We'll also use effective governance and business practices, remaining open, transparent, and accountable to the community, and to serve as an employer of choice with the highest quality teachers and staff. We're now going to go on to board reports. I'm just going to start it this way and work our way across. Marla.
Is it on? Hello? I can't tell.
Yep.
Okay. New technology. I just want to share one visit that I had to Oakmont. I'm going to just shout out for you. I visited their SMD, FTP, and ATP classes. And I'm showing off my acronyms, but I will translate. Oakmont's the only school that we have in our district that has a severe medical disability. Oh, darn it. Is that what it is? Anyway. It's just kids with severe medical disabilities. And I was struck by the amount of clearly love for the job that these teachers and paraeducators and all of the other support staff go through every day to take care of these kids. And they were engaging. When I walked into the classroom, they were practicing their greeting, wanted to shake your hands, full of joy. And I think we have kids on campus that know about the program that we have here, but our larger community likely has no idea the work that is put in to take care of these kids. The FTP, which I do not remember what it stands for, but they were the higher functioning kids. They were learning job skills. There's the Cool Kids Coffee Club that goes around and serves coffee to teachers that order it. They have a laundry service that they take care of the PE towels and clothes and things that this campus creates. And they collect shredded paper and they make homemade paper to sell. And I heard vacuuming and cleaning tables also. And then there's the adult transitioning program where older kids that have transitioned in, and they were learning life skills, going to the park and possibly going to the library, and 2 of them are going off to a job. And I just want to, I loved it. Every time I come back and visit, I will visit that program because it was a joy to see. And there is a workability program to help create jobs for these adults, and anyone that has a small business or is interested in helping those kids, I think that would just be fantastic. So thank you.
Thank you. Ludmilla.
I don't have a board report tonight, but I did want to thank everybody who came out tonight to be here.
Heidi.
All right, just a couple of things in the last couple weeks. I was able to get out to Roseville High School and visit Mrs. Fork's AP African Studies class, so that was really fun. It happened to be a day that the kids were doing presentations in a group, and so that was fun watching them kind of practice their public speaking, and they were really engaging and sweet. And then also at Roseville High School, I know I went on and on about the presentation of Clue last year, but this year was Willy Wonka, and I just can't say enough good things about the performing arts department. It was so fun. So everybody needs to go to all of the plays at every school. And then let's see, Ludmilla and I attended the transportation department ribbon cutting for the electric buses last week. And other than that, met with some of the school counselors, met with a few teachers and parents, and then next week I'll be back at Roseville High for Parent Day in the peer helping class, and so I'm excited about that as well. That's not as a board member, that'll be as a parent, but I'm still looking forward to that. Again, can't say enough good things about the peer helping class, so a little plug for that. That's about it.
Thank you. For my report, a lot has happened since the last meeting. I've met twice with other local school board presidents as a participant in the Placer County Board Presidents and CSBA leader meetings, which happen most often once a month. We met on October 18th and just yesterday on November 8th. Then I had the opportunity to travel with about 110 local business, community, education, and elected leaders to Washington, D.C. to attend the Placer Business Alliance D.C. Summit. In addition to meeting with our congressional representatives from the area, Representative Kiley and Representative LaMalfa. Topics of discussion included the following: financial challenges in meeting future service delivery needs for local governments, dual enrollment and career tech pathways, a win-win for students, schools, and the economy, a Sacramento State Placer Center update, a panel on protecting placer, public safety training, planning, and education, a section on Placer County's role in the greater Sacramento region, and then leaning into diverse housing options for complete communities. These are the ones that were related to our work here as school board members. There were a bunch of other topics that we went through as well. Additionally, Superintendent Becker and I met with several times with a group of local elected leaders, local education leaders from PCOE and our surrounding districts while we were there to talk about issues, Placer County education issues. Just a note, I did not travel at school district expense for that trip. I had the opportunity to visit both Granite Bay and West Park high schools. There I met with principals, teachers, student groups, had a great discussion, very engaged discussion with the student government class at West Park. And at Granite Bay, I really enjoyed the construction tech CTE. Had an opportunity to spend some time with the teacher there and the students in that program. Marla and I both attended the Placer County Annual Trustee Dinner for school board trustees throughout the county that was held in Auburn. There were quite a few people that wanted to meet with me, so I had either meetings or phone calls with a number of parents, teachers, students, community members in regards to items on today's agenda. And then I had the great opportunity to go to Arizona and watch my daughter, who's an Oakmont graduate, receive her master's degree in elementary education. She's an elementary school teacher. I'm not only proud of her, but really our district and Oakmont High School in particular, who prepared her so well for college. That is my report. So we'll move on to our superintendent and cabinet reports.
All right, thank you. Just a couple quick things. As Pete alluded to, with a trip to DC with Placer Business Alliance, it was a wonderful trip, and we were able to talk about our relationship with Sierra College and our dual enrollment in CTE courses, which from all the feedback we received out of most of the sessions, that was the one that was most intriguing to the folks in the business community here in Placer County, and they all wanted to know how they could partner and help us grow our program. So that was a positive success there. And then really, it's just the fun time of year at this point in the fall. We have all of our teams in the playoffs. We had Granite Bay and Roseville girls volleyball play in the section finals Saturday at Casunas River College, and then right across the campus, we had Wood Creek in the section finals for flag football. It's just that really neat time of the year, and then you add our fall musicals, fall dance shows, our marching bands are finishing up the marching season with some big tournaments and things going on this weekend, and we had one here at Oakmont where all of the district schools had an opportunity to perform. So it's really hustle and bustle, and a lot of things are going on. So it's really a fun time of the year. It's where our kids really get to showcase their talents, and we get to see the success of our programs. And again, if anybody has an opportunity to check them out, please do.
All right, and I heard that there's no cabinet reports. Is that correct? All right. Sorry, I'm sorting cards at the same time here. Next is committee reports. I'll start with the policy committee met on October 13th. There's a number of board policies and administrative regulation changes that we'll see in consent calendar under item 6.15. The agenda in board docs has a pretty detailed summary matrix of all the changes. Most of them, I think all of them, are due to changes in law, bringing us in conformance with law. Did any other committees meet? No. Oh, so finance is Monday. All right, so we'll hear from you next month. All right, now we have student board representative reports. We're going to start all the way at the end with Jace and work our way back this way.
All good? Okay. So start out with how our homecoming went last month. Wow, that was a month ago, goodness. Our dance was the most successful dance we've ever had to date, with over 1,200 students from West Park and other schools combined in attendance. We're very proud of how this year's homecoming turned out, and we'll see how next year turns out, since we set the bar very high with expectations. Our drama department recently had their showings of Midnight Summer Dreams and sold out on all of their shows, which was amazing. We've had several fall sports make the playoffs, including flag and tackle football, girls tennis, girls volleyball, and girls water polo. As of now, football is playing at Plaster on Friday for the second round of their playoffs. And two of our amazing athletes, Sophia Spencer and Noah Kastuaks, I believe is how you pronounce it, yeah, made the semifinals for girls tennis against Johnson Ranch. And let's not forget the amazing comeback our girls volleyball team had against Whitney in the first round of their playoffs. And that's all I have for you. Thank you.
Okay, so a lot has happened since my last board meeting in September. We also had our homecoming. It was Bears on Broadway themed, and it was very successful. We were able to bring back our bonfire rally after 5 years, and it was a very cool experience. We had lots of community members out to see us as we burned 200 pallets. So that was very fun. And then just yesterday, we had 21 of our student athletes participate in Letters of Intent Signing Day, and we are very proud of them and all their hard work. And then last week, we also had our GBHS theater program perform Shakespeare's Othello, and it was amazing. We have so many very talented students, and we are grateful to have them at Granite Bay. And then upcoming events, next week we have our Every 15 Minutes program to help our upperclassmen realize the consequences of drunk driving. And so we are busy preparing for that. And then the week when we come back from Thanksgiving break, we are hosting our Random Acts of Kindness Week to promote school unity through different activities. So we are also busy preparing for that, and we are excited. So can't wait to see what the rest of this month holds. And yeah, that's all I have to report.
Thank you.
So I have a few things to talk about that's going on around Oakmont campus. The first one is a few weeks ago, we had Unified Sports. That was our soccer event. I thought it went really successful. We had a lot of classes come out every single period. We had signs for every single athlete from our school. We kind of had a student section. There were cheers going on. It was very organized, and I just want to give a shout out to everyone that helped plan that, because it was our most successful Unified Sports to this date. We had Culture Fest last week. That was, in my opinion, the best rally that we've had this year. It showcased a few different cultures. We had Phoenix Drum and Dance Company. They came in, and we have a few members from our Asian Student Union perform. And then we had a mariachi band perform. There was a lot of student interaction with that, and I thought it went very well. We had our Halloween dance and band and drama performance, all of them kind of combined together, and it was in the theater. Different classes signed up to go watch, and IB Dance performed, and then Drumline performed, band performed a few times, and drama had a few skits. We are planning our canned food drive next week. We donate all of our cans to the Salvation Army, so they came and dropped off boxes today, and we put them in all the classrooms. Like Mr. Becker said earlier, we had a band event at Oakmont with over 20 schools involved, so that was a huge success, and our band is doing amazing things right now. And then our girls tennis team also made playoffs.
Well, thank you very much. Our next item on the agenda is RSCA report. Natalie? And by the way, as people come down, we're going to have people speak on both sides tonight. Welcome.
Good evening. Is it on?
Pull it down just a little bit.
Good evening. Is that better? Okay, I got you. All right. So thank you, as always, for this opportunity. I often dread it because I get nervous, so I decided not to talk today. Instead, I'll do an interpretive dance. Totally joking. I'm not going to do that. Anyway, first off, before I begin, I want to say thank you for the military people in service and also those who did their time. I appreciate all their hard work, and I just want to say that. Then, this is a very exhausting time for us as educators and also students. I love that the student address said it's been a month since homecoming. It seemed like last week. This is that long haul from September 4th till now, where it's just things never stop. From midterm switching over, and it's just like things kind of just keep kicking gear to the point where students often forget that they actually have homework to do. Not looking at you guys individually, just right in front of me. Now like as Thanksgiving approaches, kids are like, oh shoot, okay, I actually have to start to doing work. So we see this exhausted time right now. Not as we progress forward slow down, Natalie. Okay, is we are seeing the adopting of a new LMS system, Canvas, and also working on our courses outlines to be approached to the board, developing new curriculum, and also working with some English teachers learning how to use a new textbook. There's so much going on, and it's a constant, endless flow, and at times we're just exhausted. I thought today as I'm sitting at my desk, I'm like, oh my goodness, I can do this. We have another few hours. I got this. But we do have some time coming off. I'm really excited that we're seeing this parental notification coming up quicker than being dragged out over time. I'm excited to maybe have some time to sleep at night and not waking up in the middle of the night and concerned about what's going to happen. I will say is with what you guys approached and shared out so far is I appreciate the pragmatic view. Is actually taking it, looking at it pragmatic and not so much as reactive as we've seen in the local areas around us. I appreciate that. However, as we look at these things, I ask for just a few things to think about is when you look at notifications home, I just want to make sure that we're doing effective communications so that we're not over-communicating to a point that becomes white noise. I know that other teachers who have children who talk about how it's like too much, it's like notification. I'm afraid that if it goes too far, that it's just going to be like, is it going to be actually taking into like too much of not the important things and then forgetting about the important things? Something to consider. And then also with that are there going to be opt-out options? So therefore, if they realize, holy, I wanted this, now it's like a little bit too much as I start to develop, because I will say from freshmen to seniors, you're going to see that shift in that developmental, and then especially as they get to that junior, senior, where they're starting to think as individuals, where they're getting jobs. It's like you kind of like want to make them take responsibility. Just something to consider as you're thinking about communication. And then secondly is the wellness center. I like to address that because as the counselors in the wellness center come into conversations, I've noticed that it is such a new system for all of us, even though they've been developing for 7 years. I was there from the get-go at Antelope when it was starting to develop, and we're like, what is this new system? And I'm still learning. I encourage everybody, including my teachers, or my colleagues as well, is to continue to learn what the Wellness Center is because I'm not a mental health professional, and I know students come to me all the time, and I'm like, I don't know how to help you, but I know that I have counselors and medical health professionals who can help them. And I know at Pathways, I could not do my job successfully if it was not for them. So just something to consider is like just encourage people to reach out and learn more because it is such a wonderful that we're seeing nationwide with the mental health crisis. It's just we have some great opportunities to hold. And I will say thank you again for the pragmatic view, and I hope that it moves forward and we're able to move forward with the new things that we need to do in our district. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next item on the agenda is public comment. Looks like I have 2 comments for public comment. The first is, I can't read the first name, so Mr. Singh. And then next up will be Alicia Watkins. You'll take this side. Welcome, sir.
Thank you. Good to go?
Yes, sir.
All right. Can you all hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
Awesome. So my name is Tejpal Singh. I am the youth community organizer for the Jagata movement here in the Roseville area. The Jagata movement is a grassroots nonprofit organization working with the Punjabi Sikh community all throughout the state of California, essentially working with every population, as well as populations outside of the Punjabi Sikh community. And essentially here in the Roseville area, we specifically work with the youth, creating a platform for some of our high school students. It's called Sikh Honors and Service Society. Essentially, it's a club on campus. We have one at West Park High School. We actually have a couple of students here, as well as Oakmont High School as well. Essentially, just to create a space for Sikh students, for Punjabi students, to find some kind of community, here in the Roseville area, and as well as like engage with the community at large. Recently we'll have like community service events for our students. We'll have events where students are able to reach out to other people in the community, understanding, like learning about initiatives that they're not necessarily even aware of, right? But I also wanted to come here to not only talk about the Jagara movement and Sikh Honors and Service Society and the impact that our students have been making in the community. I also wanted to talk about the Sikh, essentially the resolution. A resolution to pass to make November Sikh American Awareness and Appreciation Month. I did recently send out an email to the board members, and we were actually trying to come last month, but the second meeting actually got canceled, so that's why we ended up coming here now. But essentially, we want to pass this resolution as an act to represent the Punjabi Sikh community, which is steadily growing. There's a Sikh temple less than like 2 miles away from here that has a congregation that it's hundreds and hundreds of people that represent the Roseville community, and the Punjabi Sikh community is steadily growing. Like, we have students that are moving from Chicago, we have students that are moving in from the Bay Area, as well as directly straight from the state of Punjab. And the reason why we think that this resolution is really valuable is to have our students be recognized for who they really are. The awareness part of Sikh American Awareness and Appreciation Month is actually a big piece, because in this resolution we do talk about the month of November and its significance to the Sikh community. Essentially, the month of November is essentially the anniversary of a horrific event that took place in India in the year of 1984, called the Sikh genocide. And essentially, this is that was an event where essentially our students, their parents, my parents, their grandparents, their families, their relatives, their friends were put in a situation where they were being abducted, they were being hurt, they were being killed, and these are residual effects that play a role in the mental aspect, like this woman just said right here. Like, it plays a role in essentially the mental health of our students, and I think that passing this resolution will definitely play a role in at least making the students feel like they're heard and being seen in the community.
Your time is up. But thank you.
Yeah.
Alicia, over here.
Hello, board. Thank you for your time. Long time no talk. Hopefully everyone can hear me. There we go. This is a trigger warning. What you're about to hear is pretty vulgar.
All the illegals trying to jump over our border, we should be smashing their head into the concrete. Handling business, separating from their kids, making sure they're not with pedophiles and child molesters, people like the left. All we got to do is make sure that we don't put any of these kids near any Democrats, and they're going to be okay. Fuck the code!
No, I feel like they set themselves up to get their asses beat now by multiple groups of people, and it's not good for them, because they want to cuck to the fucking nigs and the Jews and everything else. But
Trannies are child abusers! Trannies are child abusers!
like I said to my followers, I'm surprised there's not a fucking mob out here, about 500 people with pitchforks and shit and flaming fucking shit. You know what I mean? Because in the 80s or 90s, the dude should be dragged out of his house. You know what I'm saying? The day of the rope couldn't come soon enough, folks.
This is the mentally ill left, folks. These are the people who think they should have an equal vote as you. These people should be denied voting rights, straight up. You shouldn't be allowed to own or do shit, straight up. You should be. Got the liberal loonies over here, bro, trying to. Oh, you mean the Satan? Little white trash dude trying to.
Nothing to say anymore, right? They've said it all. They can't do anything else. This is the whole point. I shut shit down. They're fucking stupid. They have nothing else to say. All they can do is chant. Yeah, chant more, queers. Chant more. It's all good. The day of the rope's coming one day. Don't worry. Don't worry. It's coming. The day of the rope's coming. Don't.
So what you just heard was Jeffrey Perrine harassing high school students from this district at the Trans Day of Visibility. And he was the same gentleman that this board awarded extra time to at the board meeting that I helped shut down after he stalked and harassed Pastor Casey. I cannot emphasize enough how much I feel that certain members on this board are biased towards a movement that is creating toxicity and danger for countless students in our community. You were elected to this position for one purpose, and that is to serve the children of this community in the best way possible. And you're serving your agendas. There's one member whose Twitter account I follow very, very closely, who just appeared at the Capitol, and there's a picture of her behind a podium that says, transitioning is not suicide prevention. You're not trans. You're not a psychologist. You have no idea what you're talking about. So I expect better from this board, and we will be watching.
All right, that's the last card I had for public comment. We're now gonna, don't go away, Alicia, because I think you have a card on the next item. Our next item is the consent agenda. You put in a card for the consent agenda, is that correct? Yep. All right, come on in and address us on which of the items. I believe it's 6.15, so if you have anything to talk to us on that one, come on down.
All right. So, according to Statista, child abuse comes in several different forms and includes physical, emotional, sexual, psychological abuse. In 2021, there were 588,229 reported cases of child abuse in the U.S., with the most common form of mistreatment being neglect. Those are just the reported cases. According to recent figures, there are approximately 74 million children in the USA.
So, excuse me, what does this have to do with item 6.15? Can you make the connection for us, please?
6.15, the
Board policies, which one are you talking about?
Yeah, I'm getting to it.
Okay, well, make the connection, because what you're talking about has nothing to do with what we have on our agenda.
Well, if you wouldn't interrupt me and you'd let me continue to get to the end of my point, you'd see it does have a connection.
Well, if you told us first, then we'd know if it was connected to the agenda, so go ahead.
By a conservative guesstimation, 1 in 7 children suffers abuse before the age of 18. So that means there are no less than 10,360,000 children who are abused in the USA today. Now there are around 392,000 children in foster care, so a little less than 10 million children are trapped in abusive homes. When I say trapped, that's exactly what I mean. Many of these children are in families that keep their kids out of the public school system or off the grid altogether. Whether it's homeschooling, strict religious communities, or other extreme conditions, these children do not have a safety net to help support or protect them in cases of abuse. Sadly, there is not a lot that can be done to hold those families accountable without further endangering the children in question. What we do have control over is creating safe spaces in schools for our children. We train school staff to be mandated reporters. We hire licensed counselors and therapists to support our children. We create wellness centers where kids can have a safe space to voice any of their concerns away from classmates, friends, and family. Now you want to destroy the delicate support structure that has been created to provide a safe space for children. These modified policies go beyond the controversial forced outing policy, aka parental rights policies, and will notify parents if a child misses a class because they needed time with a counselor in the wellness center. How do you think abusive parents will react when they hear their abused child may be talking to a professional? How likely will it be that an abused child visits a counselor if they know their parents will be notified? I have already received word from a board trustee of a neighboring district that 3 students have killed themselves this year. These students are gone forever. 3 innocent souls. What this board is planning is an egregious affront to student safety, and you should be ashamed of yourselves. You are placing the demands of abusive parents over your responsibility to protect vulnerable
Thank
children.
you. Your time is up, and thank you for speaking
My
on...
time is still going. Yeah, I have
Well, I
42
was
seconds, and
timing
you
you
interrupted
here.
me.
You're speaking on the wrong agenda item, so finish up, but then you're done. We're on item 6.15. You're speaking on item 8.1, but finish your 20 seconds.
If you have even a modicum of empathy for children, you wouldn't entertain such a disgusting policy change. It's nice for me to be interrupted, but the Nazi wasn't.
All right, does anybody on the board like to pull an item from the consent agenda? Do I have a motion for the consent agenda? We have a motion.
Motion to approve.
We have a motion from Heidi. Do I have a second from Marla? All in favor, and this includes our student board representatives, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That carries with a board vote of 4-0 with 1 absent. We are now going to move on to item 8.1. And hold on one second here. So 8.1 is approval of new and revised board policies and administrative regulations regarding parental and student rights and responsibilities. Just want to give a little bit of foundation for how we got to where we are today. There's been a lot of discussion about process and why we use the process that we use, so I just want to kind of go over that so that everybody understands how we do things both here and per our bylaws and how we make sure we comply with state law. We have a policy on board policies, and that's what we've been following here, which has a sequence of events when we first hear from the public, then give direction to our staff and go through the process. I want to remind folks that we do have the Brown Act that guides what we do, and that's why our discussions have to be in public. There's been a number of concerns about why are we making the decisions and why are we having the discussions the way we're having it. It's because the law says that's the way we must do. Now the board here gave direction to staff at our last meeting, directions on what we would like to see return. In the meantime, staff has been working to respond to our direction to develop policies that they felt met the direction that the board provided. The next step is then they return the policy to us, which is what we're doing today. It's important to understand that this is staff's interpretation and putting it into operation, how they're going to operationalize, that's the word I was looking for, the board direction. This staff does, they have their own little process of what they do. I know they've reached out to a couple board members to make sure that they were seeing and hearing and interpreting the intent properly from the previous meeting. So what we have here is that staff work. Our role today is to look at, discuss, and decide what we'd like to do with the staff recommendations for these policies. We have a number of things that we can do. We can take what's been provided and approve it. We can take what's been provided and amend it and approve it with amendments. Or we can send it back for more work, further direction, further clarification, and hear this at another time. If we're going to make changes, since these are a number of documents, I think we have, 4 different documents that have been changed, plus the one of the policies that does not have changes. If we're going to make changes, I just want to lay out the process that we're going to do that, because we have multiple documents, they say different things, and we have to be very structured in how we do it. So if we decide to approve what's been provided to us with amendments, I want to make sure that we don't, number one, mix up those amendments, and number two, that we're very clear to staff in what we expect them to do so that the amendments reflect the board's direction. So what we're going to do is we'll use what's typically referred to as standard parliamentary procedure. So I think the best way that we can do this is if we want to approve with amendments, we will make a motion for approval, of what's been presented to us, and then will we take each amendment as a separate amendment so we can segment the conversation so that everybody is clear what we're talking about, where in the documents we're talking about, and what exact precise changes that we're making. We'll vote on those amendments one by one if they're contested anyway. If we choose to do something that is not specific, so if we're giving a broad direction, then we would need to send staff to go do more work and come back with something that's written so that we can be clear what we're voting for and the public can be really clear in what we're approving. Once we pass that, then it goes back to John and all the other members of the cabinet and faculty, and their charge is then to take the policies that we've approved and establish how they are going to implement that policy, how they're going to train various staff members in that policy, and how they're going to establish practices that are consistent with that policy. At that point, it's really hands-off from the board because it's an administrative function. But the board doesn't just walk away from it. We maintain our engagement by evaluating how the policy is implemented and ensuring that it meets our collective expectations as a board. If we find that it's not sort of being operationalized in the manner that we anticipated, or that we're having unintended consequences, or that we got close but we missed the mark by a little bit, we have the option to revisit the policy, make changes, provide clear direction to staff, but pretty much all the operationalizing of that is the administrative function of the superintendent. We also, and I've talked at length with John about this, it's our role to hold him accountable for how he implements and follows the board policy and directions that we give him. So while we may come to fruition with a policy today, our work takes a little bit of a pause, but then we have other roles in observing, maintaining, evaluating, revising, and of course, evaluating staff on how that happens. So I just want to make sure we went through that so everybody out there knows what we're thinking and the process that we're going through. Before we get started with much from the board, I want to ask our superintendent if he has anything that he would like to share with the board as to what we have in front of us, and then we'll start our process.
Yes, thank you, Pete. So based on that direction that was given back in September, along with a few check-ins and comments from various trustees, staff has provided like you were saying, a foundational set of policies based on that direction. And what started as a 53-page document has now evolved into what you see today from staff. And so we're hoping that it gives the board the opportunity to have the discussion and work towards the outcomes you guys are all seeking. I would just say from this process, staff has been in an ongoing review cycle, even beyond the policies of how we can improve the various methods of parent communication. We feel it's imperative that we continue to review and improve communication with our parents, provide parents with as much information as possible to make informed decisions, and really establish a partnership when we need to provide services to support a student while they're in our system. And so, as you were alluding to, this will be an ongoing process. We have so many layers of services and programs and practices. Our goal will be to try to align those practices with the policies set forth by the board.
Thanks. I think it's also important for us to acknowledge that we have so many policies throughout our organization that it would not be surprising if we find that there develop to be some conflicts in other policies that we're going to have to address at some other time. We may or we may not, but as we start to operationalize things, we may find other information as we go forward. I know that, as John inferred, but I'll probably go a little bit deeper here. We do know that our practices throughout our district are not as clean or uniform as we'd expect. We've seen a lot of variation between not only sites but different programs within our school district. We saw that pretty clearly with the curriculum issues and others. So I'm also expecting that we'll be discovering more as we start to implement policies. And while it can be regrettable that we have these gaps, I think the good part is we're finding them, and we're going to continue this process of sort of aligning our policies with the laws and aligning our practices with the policies. And hopefully at some point we're going to get it all ironed out nice and smooth. So with that, we have BP 470, which is a brand new policy. We have BP 5020, which has no changes to it. We have AR 5020, which has changes to it. I'd probably rate it as a moderate amount of changes. And then we have BP 5020.1 and AR 5020.1, which are brand new policies. So we're going to follow our normal protocol. If we have any questions for staff, we'll get those taken care of now. Then we'll hear from the members of the public that have turned in their cards. And then from there, we'll get into our discussion. My assumption is we probably have more discussion than questions, but I just want to make sure, does anyone have any questions that you'd like to ask, to have some clarifications on what we have in front of us without getting us into discussion, because I want to make sure the public has time.
I have a question.
All right.
When kids turn 18, do we notify parents if they're absent?
Well,
I mean, is there a switch in areas? This is just
well,
foundation.
I went through this with all my kids turned 18 before they graduated. So
I was staring at you, but I don't know if I was asking you.
yeah,
But yeah,
we
what
do,
happens?
We do have a process. There's a form. The student goes to the front office. They meet with the staff. There's a form that they end up bringing home to their parents. Hopefully they bring it home to their parents, that notifies them that the parents essentially have no more real authority over the absences. The students have that. It's their right when they turn 18. So there's that form that goes home with the student. I'll ask staff now. I don't think we actually go seek them out on their birthday, give them a birthday card and form, but
Okay.
we rely on the students to come in.
I'm just curious, is there an off switch? You know, as we go down this road of talking about notifications, I just was wondering what happens when kids turn 18.
So that
just in
part
general.
I'll send off to whoever would like to address that.
Yeah, so it's one that the student would have to engage themselves. We don't automatically switch anything off at 18. We go business as usual all the way through graduation. There's a handful of students that will do. It's an 18-year-old letter. I can't remember the exact waiver, 18-year-old waiver that they have to submit. There's a handful of students that will do that, but for the most part, most don't.
Okay, but an 18-year-old could approach the office and say, I'd
They
like
could,
to.
yes.
Okay,
Yeah,
that's
they
all I
could.
wanted to know.
I think a lot of our students want to stay on the payroll at home, so they don't do it.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Student board members? George, is that you?
So I have stuff that I'm gonna bring up later that will probably get us more into like discussion. But my question that I have right now is, you guys kept saying like staff wrote. Was this sent out to all staff members, and if not, like which staff members was this sent to be written? Was it just admin? Was it a mix of teachers and admin? Was there counselors involved? Was there what different aspects went into this?
I'll let John answer that. From our perspective, we give it to John, and he works with whatever staff he deems necessary, and I'll let him add on.
Yeah, so staff meeting, so really the development of this happens in cabinet with like all of our policies, and then we will reach out to individual people along the way. So that could be down with Dr. Dobson, or Ms. Mua or anybody in my cabinet have those conversations. Prior to here, we did a kind of a presentation of what the policies were to RSCA leadership, and we met with site administration. And then really from the development of the policy, what is approved or provided in terms of direction, then we branch out and go even further with the notifications and implementation.
Okay, and then also, was there any student input, or was it just from teachers and admin?
I will say, I met with students at different campuses and had discussions with them from sort of the board perspective in providing direction, and I'll let John answer from an administrative perspective.
From a policy development practice, no, that wouldn't reach down to students because we're dealing with the policy aspect and working with legal, and usually that's again a cabinet level is where the policy creation happens.
That's all I have.
Anybody else down at that end? I can't see you guys, so if you want my attention, you got to wave. Okay. Last chance for board members before we get into public comment. I just counted and I forgot the number, so let me count these again. Whoa, just under, so 3 minutes. I'm going to do my own timer so I don't have to crook my neck. All right, our first speaker is going to be Karen Combest, followed by Michelle Peterson, followed by Shemaine Phillips. So we have 2 mics, so if you can get to each mic, transitions will go faster. Welcome.
Good evening. My name is Karen Combest, and first of all, happy holidays. I hope everybody has a great Thanksgiving and a Merry Christmas and all that, or happy holidays just in general. I want to thank you for taking on this very politically charged topic. I know it hasn't been easy, but I trust that the board and the cabinet will do the right thing for all involved. I will say that fundamentally, parents would probably appreciate it if you just give us the benefit of the doubt that we're good parents and that we're not abusive or going to kill our children because they go see a wellness center counselor. And give us the opportunity to have a conversation with our children prompted by notification, because who here is the best qualified to take care of our children? Quite frankly, we are, and we will always be. And as I've said multiple times, you have them for just 4 years. We have them for a lifetime. So keep us engaged, give us the benefit of the doubt, let us participate in the process. And I would argue, as I've shared with the board and Mr. Becker, that I think you're already violating California Ed Code 51101 right now because you're not notifying parents when a kid is not in class if they're at a wellness center visit or with their counselor. Per California Ed Code, you're supposed to notify us. Currently today, you notify us through ARIES with a notification if our kid is tardy or absent, whether they're at a doctor's appointment or they're skipping school. We get a notification, email, text. That's pretty much real time during that day. The same thing should happen when a student misses class for another reason, any reason. And then it's on them, it's on us as parents to follow up with our children and to ask them questions about maybe where they were. And then you're out of it. Like, you have no say what happens, and there's no guarantee that our children are going to be honest with us. Sometimes they're not. But that might be if they're just skipping class. They could say, oh, well, I, had a flat tire or whatever. But the prompt provides an opportunity for communication and for an opportunity for us to assist our children and to know what's going on in their lives that we may be able to assist with. So I know the devil's in the details, and that's obviously for you to work out, but there's a lot of things in the policy that have a lot of questions, like what's a referral, what's a student record, and Pete, you covered that very thoroughly last time, and it's very clear that it's unofficial, informal, even notes written by a counselor in their private file in their desk, per FERPA, per the California Code of Regulations. So it's all very clear, and I would just ask that you take a look at 5145.3, and it will need to be updated if you, accept these policies. And that is very specific and very detailed and very time specific. So thank you.
Thank you. Michelle Peterson on this side, followed by Shemaine on this side. Welcome.
Hi, Michelle Peterson. I am a Oakmont alumni. And I could just say ditto to everything that she just said. I have questions as I go through this policy of the details of it. What does that mean as you're, like, prevent an immediate threat to the pupil's health, safety, or welfare? The definition of what does that mean is, I guess, a big question to me. I know if my child went to a counselor, academic, or the wellness center, or even a teacher, and just started talking about all kinds of things that were going to affect her health, her well-being, even just that she had even of these thoughts. I had always hoped, actually, I thought I would get a notification. And I'm finding now, is that not what's happening? I hope that's what you put in there. Regardless, I think this is for all children. I do support parents and their notification, just like Karen said. I think we all are being told that we're all evil parents, and we're not. We raise our kids, we're responsible for our kids, because if my kid does something, I'm the one that's gonna take the fall for it. The school isn't. They're not gonna be responsible. As well as if your child is out of class for any reason. I mean, I think I would like to know that my kid's out of class. If all of a sudden they didn't come home, I kind of can start back to the school. Is that like something that you're not gonna tell us? So I think there's a lot of questions, and it's just kind of broad, that you guys really need to define some of these terms. And I do support a parental notification for a lot of this stuff. You just need some definitions in a lot of it. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Shemaine, followed by Jay Reed. Jay, you'll be on this side.
Hey, Pete, before you start my time, I just want to say what you guys have to say is important, and sometimes it's hard to hear you guys on that mic. So I just want to make that comment.
Okay.
Because we want to hear what you have to say. So first, I want to say thank you for your work on creating the policy that supports parental notification and rights. Unfortunately, there's some issues, and I'm going to ask that you fix them before voting tonight. AR 5020, it has no defined timelines anywhere. Timely could mean 1 day to one person and 1 month to another. The difference 1 day versus 1 month could mean to a student having a mental or physical challenge could be life or death. Please add time limits, 24 hours, 72 hours, like whatever that looks like, to provide guidelines that are both measurable, easy to follow, and create accountability for the staff. Item number 10, it has a major loophole. It should read any time a student goes to their counselor or wellness center, a parent should be notified, not just the missing class language. I mean, give parents a chance to help their students with their mental and physical issues, because they are our responsibility. And as she said, we have to take the fall. I mean, we're financially, medically, and socially responsible, I'll say it again, for 18 years, and you're not. Number 11, what qualifies as a referral? What triggers a notification? A referral to who? From who? Define it. Number 10 and 11, define who does the notifying. It shouldn't be a teacher. I mean, administrators should be doing that. Parents should be notified about official and unofficial records, specify that. Please add FERPA law to that as well, because the parents own the records and they have the right to appeal any changes. AR 5145.3 is actually the secrecy policy, and it needs to be addressed. There's 2 current areas that negate the notification outlined in AR 5020, so I hope you bring that back. In AR 5020.1, number 3 is a direct violation of FERPA. Parents own the records and they have the right to the grades, so that language should be added. In number 10 and 11, they can argue that not having the LGBTQ flags hanging in schools and classrooms makes them feel unsupported and discriminates. So I think that language should be addressed and cleaned up. And kind of closing up here, BP 0470, I don't know what to say about this, except for this policy is kind of a word salad with 0 calories. We don't need a policy that reiterates verbiage in other policies and says we follow the law. I mean, we do that anyway. So as you said, Pete, we have an abundance of policy and some that conflict, so don't make it more complicated for the staff with yet another policy that doesn't need to be there. History has shown that things if they don't get done now, they don't get done. I would ask you to clarify and clean up the language before your vote. I thank you for your time on your efforts on this, and thank you for your consideration.
Okay, we're going to have Jay on this side and Brian Faircloth on this side. Go ahead, Jay.
Yeah, thank you, Jay Reed. My daughter goes to Granite Bay High School. I think many of you know that we've struggled with our mental health for the better part of this year, and I expressed a lot of those concerns at your Public Policy Committee in October. And thank you, Dr. Dobson, for meeting with me individually for over an hour, so I have a better sense of how complicated and nuanced visits with counselors and visits with the Wellness Center can be. I've expressed my concerns to Dr. Dobson, to many of you on the board. I really feel like this policy goes above and beyond any recommendations that I could have had. So I am extremely grateful that we have set some guardrails now. My only regret is that I just wonder if these guardrails were in place when my daughter was struggling, if we would have been in a different place. So I'm happy. I think these are common sense approaches. I absolutely believe that parents have a right to be notified if their kids are struggling with mental health and they're expressing that at school. And I really appreciate the efforts that you guys have put into. I think they're thoughtful and considerate. Thank you.
Thank you. Brian will be on this side, followed by Sarah Chamamia. I'm sorry, I probably pronounced that wrong. Go ahead, Brian.
Hello, I'm Brian Faircloth. I reside in Placer County. A good share of my tax pie goes for education, and so I'm here to speak not for any children I have in school, but for the future leaders that they get the correct education that I'm paying a lot of money for. I'd like to make a comment, first of all, for you addressing the parents' rights. You're on the right track. Thank you for taking the effort to doing that. I'd like to make one side comment before I get into the particulars of a couple of the items, and that is I'd like to refer back to the COVID lockdown. The COVID lockdown occurred when kids were sent home from school, and a lot of the municipalities, the government officials were telling kids, you better not go see your friends, you better not go to the neighbors, because, and by the way, don't go see your grandpa, because if your grandpa or grandma die, that's your responsibility because you gave them COVID. That caused a lot of suicides in the teen population that nobody wants to talk about, but everybody now wants to, when they see a fringe thing happening, they want to blame a lot of this COVID lockdown that was ordered by the politicians in the state education department. They caused a lot of the issues with the kids, with their mental issues, as well as the suicides skyrocketed, and everybody can look that up. A couple of specifics I'd just like to talk about. You have a lot in there and a lot for people to digest, but if I take a look at BP 470, balancing the educational rights, there's a statement in there that says if the counselor or psychologist determine that I got some situation that I won't tell the parents, we can do that. But I don't see anything in there who is responsible for that decision if that decision caused some mental health or catastrophic situation to happen because the parent wasn't notified. I think there ought to be some somebody's got to be responsible down the road. The second one is AR 5020-1, which is the student's responsibility. I find it kind of unique where it says the student may support. And in item 1, it says
Your
comply.
time is up, sir.
Comply with the
Our next
regulations
speaker
of the school.
is Sarah, and please let me know how to pronounce your last name, followed by Shannon Cantanella. Sarah.
It's Jabarnia. Hi, I'm Sarah Jabarnia. I'm a student at Oakmont High School, as well as the president of Teens for Change and Diversify Our Narrative. I wasn't planning on speaking tonight, but I just want to address the student perspective in all of this regarding the mental health crisis that's facing me and my peers and the idea of parental notification. I have nothing against the parent in this room and your abilities to parent your children, but I do feel that it is a student's right to have access to a safe and comfortable schooling and education experience. And our ability to access resources such as the Wellness Center do not affect our actual ability in our classes and our experience in school. And if we were notified, if our parents were notified every time we utilize these resources and reached out to the people that we were taught since elementary school that were trusted adults that we could always go to if we're facing situations like bullying, mental health, gender identity, sexuality. If we lost our ability to discuss what we're going through with these adults and expect that our parents would be notified every time, as someone who's seen me and my peers go through this, I know that we would not feel as comfortable and we would not feel as supported by our schools and by our adults that we could communicate with. My best friend is transgender, and I've seen him go through this experience for the past 6 years, and if his parents were notified 4 years ago, before he came out to them, that he was using a different name in schools, I don't know if he would still be here with me today. Transgender students have a 32 to 52% chance of attempting suicide throughout their life, and most of these people are aware of these identities by the time they reach high school. I, as someone who has seen my peers go through this and have faced mental health issues, know that it is my right to access these resources that I have been taught are available to me without the fear that I will not be able to make the choice to go to my parents and discuss these with my parents. Because if I knew that my parents would be forcibly notified of this without my right and my say, I would feel less comfortable utilizing these resources that you guys have put so much work into making available for me. So I came here today because I think that these parents that have talked today provide a great perspective, but I wanted to present the students' perspective and discuss how if we lost our right to access these resources at our own pace and come out to our parents at our own pace and express our identity to our parents at our own pace with our own say, it would create a space in schools where we would be a lot less comfortable with our identity and the trust we have in our teachers and trusted individuals. Thank you.
Thank you. So, before our next speaker, I just want to say we're not accepting any more cards because you know our rules about 10 or under, or 9 or under, or 10 or more. You guys kind of snuck them in on me afterwards, so we ended up with more than 10 speakers. So we're closing speaker cards, so no more after the ones I have. Shannon, you are next, and after Shannon will be Melissa McDonald. Go ahead, ma'am. You're Shannon, right?
Yes.
Go ahead.
No, sorry, I thought they were seeking clarification. Oh, okay. Thank you for the students' voices tonight. I think they're the most important thing that we can hear this evening. I hope that more of them find their voices to speak up on their perspective regarding this policy change. I also want to thank the gentleman who came and spoke about the Sikh month of recognition. He taught me something, and I didn't know that, and I appreciate learning something about the world we live in. Along with that, happy Diwali, because it's currently Diwali, and happy Native American Heritage Month, which is in the entire month of November. I really appreciated Trustee Constant remarking that there needed to be special attention paid to unintended consequences. And I think the most important question to go along with that is, what is your goal with this policy? Why are you adopting or creating this policy? What is the end result, and what are you seeking? I think that a lot of the parents tonight are approaching this from a perspective of fear or evil versus good, and none of that should be part of this conversation, because nothing is evil about what we're discussing. It's about children identifying and wanting to represent them true selves, their true selves, and finding safety. I think another point that's important to remember is that the parents are not the victim in this situation. This conversation is about protecting and uplifting students. Parents should never come out and think that they're being called evil and think that they are the victim, because that just flips the script, and what we're trying to do is focus on students. A lot of these conversations that happen in these families' households don't happen until the student feels confident and comfortable enough in themselves. The families are often the last to find out, because the families are the one that hold the penultimate rejection or accept. And that's, I think, a key point that you need to remember with these students, is that they are still learning to express themselves. I also request that you take careful consideration and clarification on the Parents Regulation 5020, Parents' Rights number 16, where it instructs staff to notify parents regarding any changes to the students' records. I want to know what kind of records those are. Are they talking about, how the children are presenting in class, how they're talking, the language they're using, what they're wearing? Are they wearing makeup? Would you send students home because they're wearing makeup at school and notify their parents, but you know that the kids take the makeup off when they go home? I need you to think about the why of why you're opening this Pandora's box, because you're going to hear a lot more questions that have all the nuances and every flip side. I really need you to stop and think about the why of why you are creating this situation. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Melissa McDonald, followed by Kevin Collier.
I just took the liberty of coming over here, Pete, because
Yep.
I thought you'd send me here. Is this, I don't know if this is on or
It's
not.
on.
First, I just want to question cutting off public comment. Just as a former trustee, I think you can limit the amount of time people have. I understand and I appreciate that you're not going to let it go for hours, but I find that a little bit questionable. I wasn't going to speak tonight. I haven't been here in a while, but as I was listening, I felt compelled to speak. It makes me sad that any parent thinks they're being called evil. I'll speak for myself. I'm not calling anyone evil. I think we all love our kids and want what's best for them. I certainly want to know what's going on in both my children's lives so that I can be a resource and an ally to them and a partner. I, under no circumstances, do not want to be informed about what's happening with my kids if there's a way I can help them. I think something occurred to me as I was listening to other parents, and I think this is a struggle we all go through as we're raising kids, is starting to separate ourselves from our kids, right? When they become teenagers, they're not little kids who need us in the same way that they needed us when they're little. Our job is to grow adults. We're growing independence, we're promoting agency, and that's what high school is about, and ultimately college. So empowering our students to have agency and take care of themselves as they see they need it, I think is really important. So I just urge this board not necessarily to look at this as a parent rights issue, but rather how are we cultivating agency in our youth to care for themselves? That's really important, and we just heard a student speak to that. You were very articulate, by the way. And I think she's a perfect example of how mature and intelligent and capable our young people are. I also just wanted to say that I really trust our teachers and our staff at our schools. I think throughout the last couple of years, there's been a lot of, I know, negativity thrown and mistrust or what have you. But I personally have received phone calls from teachers when they didn't need to call me, telling me they were concerned about my daughter in particular and some of the things that she was struggling with in class. That wasn't mandated. They called because she was crying and upset and saying things like, I'm not good at this in class. Her physics teacher did not need to call me and tell me that at 6 p.m., and I really appreciate that. So I just urge you and urge other parents to have faith in our teachers. They care about our kids. I don't personally feel like they're hiding things from me.
I think your time is up.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm looking at the bottom. I still have a minute and 11.
Sorry, I'm looking at the wrong one. Go ahead.
No, that's quite all right. So anyway, I wasn't really going to
sorry.
say much else. It's okay. I know you want me to shut up, Pete. It's
No,
okay.
I don't. I just started mine at a different time, so I was trying to reconcile.
It's all
I'm
good.
sorry.
I won't cry about it later in the bathroom. It's all right. Anyway, that's all I want to say is, and I appreciate as a former trustee the position you're in, and I actually think the staff did a great job in addressing both sides in this. I just hope that as you deliberate, you consider, like I said, that students also have rights, and it's not necessarily parents versus students, but what do we want for our kids? They are going to leave us after their senior year, and they have to be able to in college. We're not going to know if they go to the wellness center. Personally, for me, for my kids, I want them to feel equipped to know what resources exist for them and how to access them so they can be healthy, because I'm not going to be there, and I tell my kids that. I'm not, as much as I don't even want to be there all the time, because they're going to be their own people. They already are. So I'll shut up now. You got your wish.
No, I wasn't wishing that. Our last speaker, Kevin Collier.
Yeah, and I'm happy to take only a minute and a half if I turned in my card late, too.
No, that's
But
okay. Go ahead.
I was mostly inspired to turn in a card by the student who spoke earlier, and I want to
Can you pull the
pick up-
mic closer?
Hey, okay. So I was mostly inspired to turn in a card by the student who spoke earlier, and I want to pick up on that a little bit from the parent's perspective, because as a parent of a couple of students who are going to come up through our system, I want the system that's going to make my student feel comfortable going to the wellness center if that's what they need to do. And if it's not notifying me that's going to make them feel comfortable getting the help they need, then that's what I want. And I heard a student tell you tonight that some students aren't going to feel comfortable when they know there's this notification. And having a policy that creates the risk that students who need help won't seek it out because they're worried that their parents will know. So I think of the analogy like, I don't want my kids to drink during high school, but more than that, I don't want them to drink and drive. So if they're at a party and they're drunk and they can't get home, or they're with a driver who is supposed to be a designated driver and they can't get home, I want them to call someone who will get them home safely. That's the most important thing. And if they don't feel comfortable calling me in that moment because they're worried they'll get in trouble, whatever it is, the most important thing is for them to get home safely. So I think there's a very close analogy to these wellness centers. What I want for my kids is if they need mental health services, to go get them. I hope that they'll have a counselor, and I see good things in this policy that's a balance that says we're going to have counselors who encourage students to have conversations with their parents. I think that's good. I think it's an example of the good balance, careful balance in this policy. I want that. But I think that the counselor should be encouraging the student to talk to their parents instead of saying, hey, I'm the government, I'm going to make that decision for you, and I'm going to step in, I'm going to circumvent you, and I'm going to go directly to your parents. So I like that balance. And one of the last things that I'll say is if there's going to be big changes to this policy, define the terms more concretely based on board feedback, I really encourage you to bring this before the public again then, because it could be a completely different policy at that point, and the public should have another chance to comment on these important issues. Thanks for listening.
Thank you. All right, so now it comes back to us. And as we look at this, well, I guess we'll just start with commentary, and if there's additional questions, I'm going to take the liberty of letting the students go first, and then we'll get in, because I think once we start talking and debating, we might forget to look further down the table. So George grabbed the microphone first, so that must mean he wants to speak first. So George.
First, I just want to say thank you to everyone who had comments tonight. I think it's important that the public and students can share their input. So the first thing that I want to bring up with this is the whole idea behind this parent notification system, from what the staff has written in these guidelines, is that parents are being notified because their student is out of class. So does that also mean that they're going to be notified every single time that their student goes to the restroom and they're missing class? Does that mean that their student is going to be, or that they are going to be notified every single time a student leaves class to go get their muffin? Because we just got these vending machines and I see dozens of kids out every single class period getting muffins. And me in student government, I there's been multiple times this year where I have to skip a little bit of another class to take care of something for student government or go have a meeting, whether it's with our student government teacher or admin or just a teacher or students on campus. Will my parents be notified when I am out of class to have a meeting with those people? So once again, a few of the public comment brought it up that it's not very clear. And I think that there needs to be more clearness throughout this, throughout all of these documents.
All right.
I mean, if anyone wants to comment on that out of...
Well, I can just address that. So there's no change contemplated on how we notify parents for students out of class. That's something we already currently do. So if you're tardy to class, like I got one for my daughter the other day, when you're absent from an instructional period, we're going to follow the same. So a lot of the stuff that's in here are things that we are already doing. So we are putting them into our policies, so bringing our policies in conformance with our practices. And then keep in mind that what we are giving is a framework of policy to the superintendent to then operationalize, put in motion, and develop the practices with. So clarity often comes from that next step of implementation.
So after Mr. Becker goes over all of this and makes it more clear, will that be the end of it, or will it come back to this board and will we discuss it again once it's more clear? Because right now a lot of the public is saying it's not clear enough, like we don't know exactly what this means. So once it is more clear, will people be able to come up and share their opinions, and when will we be able to share our opinions on that? Or once Mr. Becker clears this all up, is it going to be put into action?
So the board will decide today if we're going to clarify any points in the policy, and I'm assuming there may be a few of those clarifications as we go through. So assuming we make, say, a handful of edits to the policy, once it reaches that point, the policy is set and it's approved by the board, so it goes into effect. And then the administration's job is to interpret it and put it into practice. The board will then provide oversight to ensure that the implementation is reflecting what the intentions of the board were in the policy. If we see there are gaps, we may bring it back for amendments, or we may ask the superintendent to take another look at how it's being implemented to see if there's implementation changes. So there could be a variety of things after that. But much like all of our other policies, we approve a policy from that level and then we have them do it. So if you make an analogy, when the vehicle code says that you can't speed, and we have a law for unsafe speed, 22-350 of the vehicle code, we don't tell the police officers how to enforce that. That's something that the administration of the police department, the police officers do in their day-to-day duties. And we do the same thing. We set the law, and then they figure out the policies, internal policies, procedures, practices, and train the staff in order to implement them.
May I add something? And
Yeah.
I think it's very reasonable to assume that...
I think you need to turn on.
It is on.
Okay,
Oh,
there
we go. I think it's also reasonable to assume that Mr. Becker, once he determines how to enact the policies, there could very easily be communication about what that looks like. So the clarification that some people are looking for would come at that point, if not sooner. Would that be a fair statement?
Yeah, and this board can, as part of passing the policy, request that the superintendent come back and report on its implementation. We could get status reports, okay, so we might have him come back, say, in 60 days and tell us what he's done so far, and then we may choose to have a 6-month or an 8-month or a 1-year review of, okay, John, tell us how it's going. And we also do that because, as you know, we all meet with the principals and we kind of get an idea of how things are going, and so we do our own little evaluations and then John reports to us. Does that help?
I also had a question about how this is going to be sent out. Like, is it going to be an automatic? I guess I know that you guys don't have answers to this right now, so this is just kind of food for thought. But is this going to be an app that automatically sends a notification to a parent when a student is checked into the wellness center or has a meeting with a parent? Or is it going to be someone's job to go through a list of every single student that has had a meeting with a counselor or has came into the wellness center that day, and are they going to have to personally make that notification, send it to parents, or make that email, send it to parents? If so, if it's like that, then what are we taking away from our wellness staff and counseling staff to give them the time to be able to do that? Because they already have a lot on their plate. They're full almost every day. It's really hard to even be able to find times to meet with counselors because they are so busy, so packed. They're in charge of hundreds of students. And Wellness Center has dozens of kids coming in every single day, and they work with different parts of our community to help students, so they already have a lot on their plates. So, like I said, just food for thought.
Yeah.
I
didn't mean to cut you off. Do you have something else?
My last part of that is, or will it be a new position at school where someone's going to be hired specifically to do that?
So the answer to your question is that's John's job to figure out. So he handles the administrative and management functions, and he will come back to us if there are new resources needed. Like, let's just say, for example, Aries can do it, but you have to have Aries modified. There might be a cost to that. So he may come back to us and say, in order to do that, we need to have this programming done. So you need to come up with this much money. We'd figure out how to do that. Or he may say, we couldn't do that, so we have to buy a new software, and then we have to deal with that budget impact. Or if it were a case where there was additional personnel, then that would be handled through the budget process. But we sort of set the ends. This is what we would like to see. And the means to get there falls squarely in the lap of the superintendent and everybody else in the organization that works for him. So the buck sort of starts and ends with John when it comes to that. Make sense?
Yeah.
All right, moving down the line.
Oh, that's on now. Okay. I would just like to say thank you to everyone who came out tonight and shared their opinions regarding these policies. It is very important that we hear you and we listen to you. And I know the board and the cabinet takes your opinions and thoughts and concerns into consideration as they try and create a solution that makes both parents and students feel safe and heard. So I don't have any thoughts specifically on the policy, but I would just like to say thank you to the board for trying to create unity in this community, even though this issue is divisive and there's many different opinions regarding these policies. So thank you to the board and to the cabinet for your hard work.
Thank you. And if something comes up, you guys will always integrate you into the conversation. Okay, moving one more down.
Okay, so I want to say thank you to everyone who spoke. I always like seeing the different perspectives on topics such as 8.1. My only take on 8.1 is it'll probably just take some getting used to because even before tonight, some staff, including my student gov teacher, they were a little confused on it, but I think after a little more questions, I think, and more deep diving into it, I think it makes a little more sense now on how it's going to play in. I think it's good that parents are going to be notified about their child's whereabouts during school, whether it's wellness or changing their profile. From a student's perspective, I do understand that some kids do not feel comfortable telling their parents certain things about themselves, but I think the most important thing and what I hope 8.1 does for our students is just it improves their well-being and making sure they're safe and also making sure their parents know that they're safe and okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to get into the board discussion, and then just remember that I have a hard time seeing you guys down there, so get my attention if you want to jump in. I'm just going to make a quick foundational comment, and then we'll get to everybody here. I think one of the reasons we're here is because we know that both students and parents have rights, and those rights reside in different areas, just like as we've been talking about our policies. They say different things in different areas, and sometimes they conflict. And this issue of individual student rights and parents' rights is one of those areas where we have a conflict. And that's why I think that having a statement like BP 040 is important, so that we're acknowledging that we know that there are rights, and we know that not all rights are absolute, and we know rights also come in conflict. So acknowledging that, I think, is really important, and I think it sets a tone for how the district approaches conflicts in the future. Right now we have conflicts over certain parts, and I'm sure as time goes on, conflicts will show up in other parts, not only in these policies, but in other areas. And as everybody knows, there's fairly diverse set of opinions on this issue from A to Z, and knowing that we can't always meet everyone's needs and expectations from A to Z, I think it's important that for us to take a balanced approach, an approach that is going to serve us the best way it can most of the time. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to my colleagues. I'm kind of leaving it up if you want to talk by policy, or if you just want to make your statements. I can go any direction on this. I'm going to let Marla, you start, and then let me know if you want to talk about one policy, then we all talk about it, or if you want to get all your comments out and then we talk about it. I'll kind of go with the flow.
I think it would be easier if we go policy by policy.
All right.
Just so that, because we might have suggestions for changes. That's my first.
Okay.
And I like the idea of, we might need to go, I don't want to go line by line, but section by section, change by change, because I think that will be more straightforward.
All right.
We can start with 470 if you want.
Yeah, let's just work our way
Okay.
in numerical order. So 470, take it away.
I have a question for you. Since this fell under your direction, did this accomplish what you want? Because it's very verbose. I'll say that nicely. There's a lot of words. And I struggled with some of them, and not because I didn't understand, but it's very wordy. And so I'll just start with, is this what you wanted?
So philosophical statements usually are longer than they probably should be, but I think it is, personally, yes, I think it met my concerns or my intentions. I know many people have heard me say this whole thing a lot shorter, and sometimes I wish we could say things so short. A very short synopsis is, we know students have rights, and we're going to honor those rights until we can't. And we know parents have rights, and we're going to honor those rights until we can't. Because in both cases, there are sometimes things that come and supersede. And I think that acknowledging that, and acknowledging sort of some of the foundational laws and precedents that sort of put us where we are, I think is important. Which remind me, somebody pointed out a typo on one of the court citations we'll want to make sure that we cover. I think it was Kevin. So we'll make sure we get that, and also the double punctuation. We do see that. But yes, I think it could probably trim down, but I'm not sure that it's needed. I mean, if there's specific things, then I think we can do it, but I think it does capture what I said at the last meeting. As you said, it was sort of my recommendations and the board's direction to go this way. I think it does.
So as I tried to process all of this, I would have suggestions for trimming, but I can explain that in a second. But
Okay.
So, because I remember last time you talked a lot about how to address the need for balance, right? When rights are in conflict. And so I read this, and all I see is, it's in paragraph 4. In essence, what we're instructing the superintendent is, when there's a conflict, we need to follow the law in a timely manner. And I feel like that's all we're, in the end, saying with this. And is that what you were considering to be the balance? Or, because I'm trying, philosophically, I support everything here. I'm just trying to understand the point and the impact that, other than just a symbolic statement.
I'll let John clarify since he wrote it, but I'll tell you my opinion, and that is everything that is mentioned in here changes on a regular basis. And so today, a conflict may be resolved this way. Tomorrow, may be a court case or a new law, and it's going to be resolved this way. So I don't think, given the evolving nature of many of these issues around rights, that we're going to be able to conscribe exactly what should happen. And even if you just think back to the 100 years of Supreme Court cases I read, they were all on the same subject, but there were rules over and over and over, little nuances from each. So I think this is the only way we can do it without having to update a policy every single time. And yes, it probably makes it harder on John, but some of these things just aren't easy. So John, I don't know if you want to add to that.
Yeah, hopefully this is on. Yeah, it really just comes down to, it's really the paragraph above it that guides me with this. We all know in the next, as I work with our legal counsel, we know in the next few years, a lot of these things are going to be addressed and changed both at the state and federal level. But until then, we have some federal Supreme Court case situations that can help guide us. Conflict doesn't happen often, but if it does, it gives us some opportunity for staff to utilize that when need be. But I kind of look at the top, the paragraph right above it at this point in time.
Okay.
Knowing it's fluid and dynamic, but working with legal counsel, she didn't see anything of issue with it.
And I'd just add one more thing. I think it's important that we provide a framework, not a decision tree.
And I'm not necessarily looking, it was your direction, right?
Yeah.
So
our direction, my idea.
Well,
we
went along with it.
Okay.
All right. So if you're happy with it, because in the end it's follow the law.
Mm-hmm.
But I like the first 4 paragraphs, and then I feel like, and this is, again, I struggled with, I don't even know if it's a word, the verboseness of it. If I would edit this down, where I felt good about it, because at some point it shifts into talking about suicide prevention, which we have another board policy for, and we also start to talk about minor consent as well, but it's not a super thorough statement on minor consent, so that bothers me, and so if we were to pass something, I basically would want to remove some things just toward the end, because I feel like it's flowing into AR a little bit, and also conflicting, or we're talking about things in other policies. So that's my feedback, if other people have.
And I think, and John might be able to clarify, I think some of this language comes out of legal wording so that it was captured in there. I don't know if that's accurate.
Yeah, there's a little bit of legal wording, and then working with some other districts who are doing a similar journey as ours right now. But that being said, this is one of those policies, because it starts with a 0, it's more of a philosophy, an objective versus a policy. So really the wording you have is, it's really to align with your goals, objectives, and philosophy versus a practice. Those, like you said, are in other ARs and BPs, so have at it. However it aligns to the philosophy you're looking for is really, to me, what you want to pursue here.
Okay, well, I will say anything in the 5th paragraph where it starts with additionally through academic success. Just kind of additionally, everything, scrap that, and then take out effective time, timely communication, which that little paragraph, and then I would be okay.
Just to make sure, Additionally, the board emphasizes
Yes.
the obligation, that one, all
That
the
one.
way through, so that'd be one. The rest of the paragraph?
That whole paragraph, and then just effective and timely communication with parents will prevent, and only because that statement, while I totally agree with it, has nothing to do with balancing rights. It's about communication. But I like the last paragraph because I feel like it goes back to balancing rights. That would just be, and I'm just trying to keep things focused on what the main point was.
So let's stop there.
And I'm not going to make a motion until everyone makes comments.
Yeah, and also, I think really the way it should work is we should make one motion to approve and then make the amendments to the text. That's sort of the actual legal process of doing it. So if that's the case, we may want to save those, or we just want to take a broad motion and then start making the amendment motions. But let's hear from other folks on that while we ruminate on it. I'm just going to go right down the line, and then next time we'll start with you, okay? All yours.
Thank you. Just first and foremost, I do want to thank the staff for your work on this policy, on all of them actually. I wasn't here last time, at the last meeting, to be able to provide feedback and thoughts, but it's very well written, and I really appreciate all the efforts that you guys put into it. I would agree with Marla that it is very lengthy in the sense of the information that's written into this balancing educational rights. However, I do think it's important to establish the parameters of where the board stands on the issue. I probably wouldn't be opposed to amending some of it. So those are just some of my initial thoughts about this first document here.
Okey doke. Comments on? Yeah, we're going to go 470 and then we'll kind of work our way through.
All right. I agree with all of you. I think that at the end of the day, the statement is telling us to follow the law, that the law changes as new court cases come about and as new precedent is set. So some things are a little bit fluid. So I do appreciate all that portion of it being in there as just a reminder of that, yeah, the laws change and things shift. And then I can agree with the edits that have been suggested. I don't have any other edits, so yeah, there's a lot of words, but.
Someone said word salad.
Right, there's a lot of words with no calories.
A few more salads in and everyone would be happier. So here's what I'm going to suggest, just so that we can be efficient in doing this. I think it would be best if we took a motion to approve staff recommendations and then immediately get into the First Amendment, because that'll amend the motion, and then we'll have our next discussion. We'll take whatever the next amendment is and go on, because there can be an amendment to strike one completely if that's what we end up choosing to do.
Okay, so if we wanted to strike a whole, I mean, part of it is we're approving everything to potentially
Well, we're not going to take a vote on it. We're just going to take the motion, and then we're going to keep amending the motion
gotcha.
until we're all
Okay,
happy.
okay.
Make sense?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, I'll make a motion to approve.
Okay, and let's get a second.
Second.
Okay, so now we're going to take your first, we'll do a motion to amend. I just want to keep it clean so that John and everyone can follow this as we're doing. So now, if I heard you correctly, I'll make the motion, then you can second it. The motion would be to take from starting in the second to last paragraph on the first page, starting with the word additionally, and striking the rest of that paragraph and the following paragraph. So we're going to strike the part that says additionally the board emphasizes ... and we're going to strike the paragraph that starts with effective and timely communication ...
Yes, let me add one more thing.
Okay.
Right above it, where it talks, right above additionally, there's a line regarding care, custody, and control. I was kind of bothered by custody and control. If I would love care, upbringing, and education. I don't know if care, custody, and control is a legal term?
It is, it came from legal
Okay,
wording.
okay.
So you still want to change it? I mean, we can. I just think it helps to be in concert with the language and laws.
That's not a hill I'm going to die on.
Okay. So would you like to second the motion to strike the text that I did?
I will second, and then I'll pass down a sheet to John.
Okay. So
That is exactly what you just said, except the custody and control will stay in.
So now what we're going to do, we have a motion and a second on the amendment. We're only voting on the amendment. Does anyone at that end of the table have any comments on the amendment?
Can I just say something about it real quick?
Yeah.
So I think that additionally on in that paragraph, I think that it's actually important to this document because it emphasizes that, well, the first part emphasizes that parents should like have the balanced rights and can be notified about a student, like they can be notified about a student going to counseling or wellness. But I think that this is an important sentence because it includes that if there is a danger, that there is reason to not tell parents in that case. And I think that I don't want that to get lost.
Okay.
Yeah, George, I totally agree, and I moved that language into one of the other, 100%. And I will suggest that language elsewhere.
Okay.
In the other documents. And I think I wanted that, I requested that to be removed because I felt like that was getting to AR and additional, it'll be in additional board policies.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so George, if we make it to the end and we haven't done that, remind us. Any other comments from student board members on this part? Okay, so we're just going to take a vote on this amendment so we keep this clean. All in favor of this amendment signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? None. So John, I know you're taking notes, but there it is. By the way, for those who are watching, I did ask board members if they had any specific amendments to put them in writing so that we could be real clear and make sure that what we say transpires to what gets done because there's so many documents and it's so complex. So I think we're going to move now to 5020. There are no changes to. Does anyone want to discuss that?
I'd like to,
BP, not AR.
yeah. I would like to suggest an addition.
Okay.
And maybe this is, I'm going back to, I don't know, my English days in high school. So reading through the board policy of the parent rights, there's nothing in this framework that talks about communicating regarding the student's physical or social emotional well-being. And yet we have AR items that talk about that. So I would like to add something to this that adds that to the framework. And so I have some language for that.
All right. Do you want to read that to us and tell us where it would fit?
Sure. I would suggest that this would go after basically the fourth paragraph. And this is what I read in September as my suggestion for 5020. The board recognizes that the district works in partnership with families and believes honest communication and transparency is the foundation for establishing relationships and sustaining trust within a school community. Parents or guardians will be notified in a timely manner for all matters affecting their child's education, physical, mental, or emotional well-being in order to promote the best outcomes for academic and social emotional success of their children.
So I heard all that, but just clear, do you want it after 4 or before 4? For paragraph 4.
I'm sorry, so after the third, so this would become the fourth paragraph.
Between 3 and 4
right
now. Okay.
It's basically a paragraph talking about how we want to also include communication with our families.
Would you mind reading that one more time?
Sure. The board recognizes that the district works in partnership with families and believes honest communication and transparency is the foundation for establishing relationships and sustaining trust within a school community. Parents or guardians will be notified in a timely manner for all matters affecting their child's education, physical, mental, or emotional well-being in order to promote the best outcomes for academic and social emotional success of their children. And then obviously, as we have parent rights in the AR that would follow ed code, that just would flow in.
This time we're going to start with board discussion, and then I'll go to student board member discussion. Heidi, we're going to start with you first. Any questions or comments, heartburn or not with that?
No heartburn, no questions. I think I like this one as is, and I'm fine with the addition.
Okay.
Between 3 and 4.
Ludmilla.
I just have a question about the verbiage. Was that from somewhere else? Or is that?
This.
Because you said you were moving some things around.
Oh, this does not come from 470.
Okay.
This was, I think this might have been a little bit of verbiage from John way back when. Yeah, so I don't want to take full credit. I think John at one point suggested this verbiage. I may have added a few words. Honestly, it was written so long ago by me, or well, anyway, I put it together so long ago I don't quite recall what's mine and what's John's.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
I don't have any concerns with this. So this time we're going to start at the far end of the student board members and work our way back. If you have any comments, just raise your hand so I know. I don't see any. Okay. So
One more thing.
Okay.
So in the current fourth paragraph, it says parents, guardians shall have the opportunity to work with schools. Should that be right?
I guess the question would be, are we quoting right from ed code there? Since it's got an ed code citation, I bet you it's the exact wording from ed code, but if you give me a second, I'll look it up.
And forgive me, I guess I should have looked that up myself.
Read me the ed code real quick.
51100.
Oops, hang on, typo. I got fat fingers, they don't always type what I want. Let's see here. It's based on that, but that's not the exact wording. So it actually says, the ed code says, it is essential that a democratic form of government that parents and guardians of school-age children attending public schools and other citizens participate in improving educational institutions. So it is more direct than what we have. Okay, hang on, what, 101? Okay, give me a second, let me pull it up.
So do we have the wrong reference?
Well, it's not uncommon for the ed code to show, our policies to show the chapter versus the, yes. So that thank you, Kevin. That language is right out of ed code in that section.
Okay.
Okay. All right, so we've had our discussion. Would you like to make a motion to incorporate that?
I would like to make a motion to incorporate what I read.
You're going to hand me a copy of it?
I have a copy.
Would someone like to second this?
I'll second that.
All right, we're going to take a vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
None opposed. Hand that over to John. All right, now we're going to move to AR 520. Let me make sure I got the right one here. Oops, I got the same one twice, so give me a second here. Okay, AR 520. 5020, I'm sorry. All right. Would anyone else like to start, or would we like to?
Someone else can start.
This one does not have a lot of changes to it already compared to the others, so I don't see anyone else clamoring to go, so Marla?
Okay. Actually, so this is where, should we discuss kind of each line item at this point? I don't know, so.
I'd rather not. I'd
okay.
rather just discuss the ones we think we need to change.
Oh, well, maybe I'm skipping to 10 then.
Okay.
Okay.
Number 10? Okay?
Okay. I think this is where we've had some question about how it will be done. I know you were wondering about whether it be through Aries and Instant. I think a few parents also mentioned that, as well as what the time frame might be. And this is, I guess I have maybe a comment to the board. Since we do the absences, tardies, I assume it's almost instant or within at least 24 hours. Is it reasonable to assume that once you start looking into how to do this, John, will we just keep the same time frame?
That's the plan. We're hoping to activate this through Aries. We have IT working on it now, so it would be an attendance code, attendance process. The timeliness could be, it really depends on the period, the class period, the attendance clerk, when they process their stuff. So it's usually either right in the middle of the day or to the end of the day. In a rare case, the attendance clerk's not there, it could be the next morning, but it would be the same as how you get attendance now.
Okay, so I'm asking, should we make this, should we leave it on it as a timely basis, or do we say within 24 hours because that's more consistent with how we handle absences in the Aries?
So that is an exact quote out of education code. So we can't really change education code.
But this is AR.
It is. We would take out the reference to the ed code if we made changes.
Okay,
Yeah, I know that practicality, I get the notifications pretty darn quick. I've gotten tardy notifications for my kid, and I call them and they're still at home. So I know it happens fairly quickly. Sometimes I have to wake them up with a phone call, but that's a whole other story.
Okay.
So, but I could go either way on that. I would just want to make sure that before we put a time frame in, I want John, whatever we pick, I want John to have an opportunity to talk about the operational hurdles that may or may not arise if we do that.
Okay, so then it would be reasonable to me is, I think this is part of maybe him going back, researching and reporting back exactly how he'll handle this so that we can then communicate to the staff and community.
Yeah.
Okay, so then I don't want to make any, then I won't make any suggestions for change on that.
Okay.
For number 11, to be notified on a timely basis if a staff member has submitted a referral regarding their child's academic, behavioral, physical, or mental well-being. I think we should add staff member in that. I know sometimes students do self-referrals, and that's not something that I think I would. I'm not looking to prevent students from feeling like they can't refer themselves to wellness. To me, this is the idea that if a staff member sees something that's concerning in the classroom, noticing behavior changes, and if they are instituting a recommendation, I think someone else needs to intervene. Parents should, I would assume that the teacher or the staff member, whoever it is, would have already called saying, I'm worried, so I would like to just add staff.
I don't even know how all this stuff actually works in day-to-day operations, so does it work? Okay.
And I know a number of people were asking about the definite, like what is a referral? And today I called Mel and asked, is that a reasonable word to use in your educational world? And I know you're not near a microphone. I don't know if you want to explain a little bit about the different types of referrals or how that works, like what you told me basically, because I specifically asked if that word was sufficient.
Yeah, so we talked about the definition of referrals, and to me, the word referral encompasses all of the types of referrals that would be made. So we talked specifically about referrals to interventions that are made within Aries. So a teacher can refer for a discipline reason, and that is called a referral to intervention, a referral for social emotional reasons, a referral for academics. So in our world of being able to make this happen, the referral word works for us. We know what that means. It's really basically any referral. Yeah.
Okay.
Can I ask, do you use the word referral if a student goes in on themselves and checks in?
It would be a student referral.
Okay.
So there's parent referrals, and especially if we're talking to wellness, right now we have staff, student, and parent referrals to wellness currently. And then we have referrals within ARIES that staff members can make referrals. Teachers specifically usually are using ARIES to make referrals to interventions on ARIES.
So if we were to add the word staff in there to qualify this as a staff referral rather than a parental referral or a student referral, would that pose any hurdles for you in the day-to-day operations?
No, it would just clarify staff referral, yeah.
Okay?
Okay.
All right.
Should I go on? Okay.
Yeah, I think we should do it, and we'll
All
make
right.
all edits to one document
Okay.
at one time.
Okay. And then this, okay, so number 12, and this is, George, where your concerns came in. So the current verbiage, the first paragraph, it seems to be using the, okay, it's describing Ed Code 49602, but it's not the same language as what we have in our suicide prevention policies. And so I just wanted to get consistent with the language we use in the suicide prevention policy. So, and I'm just going to focus on that first paragraph right now.
Okay.
To be notified in accordance with Cal Ed Code 49602 within, and this is where, again, I don't know what the time frame should be here. And maybe I would think within 24 hours immediately. I'm leaving that part up. When the child's counselor has a reasonable cause to believe disclosure is necessary to avert a clear and present danger to the health, safety, or welfare of the pupil or others in the community. So I changed the language just to fit with our suicide prevention policy. So that was your first concern. And then the next paragraph, I felt like this section that talks about the student confidentiality, I felt like that would belong in the student rights section, not the parent rights. So I have, either I'd like to pull it, or I would like to add in a little bit of additional verbiage, just so that I feel like it's complete. And basically adding verbiage that it's the intent that the school counselors, basically this just says everything you say is confidential, but I would like to add the verbiage of, well, I'll just read the whole thing. Sorry. Any personal information shared by a student aged 12 or older during counseling, as specified in Cal Ed Code 49602, is considered confidential. The disclosure of such information requires a student's consent. It is the intent that school counselors encourage and assist the child to communicate more effectively and not withhold information from their parent guardians in order to support positive outcomes for the child's well-being and academic success. So I really think that belongs under the student rights, but if whoever added that feels strongly that we need to keep something like that, then I would just like to add a little bit more to it.
So I would just say that I think it's important, if we're going to put that language in, to have it here so that when parents are reading their rights, they're seeing that they're right, that this
Okay.
is the potential conflict.
Okay.
So I'm going to ask John first. John, any issues with the change that was just summarized? And I'm going to have her read it again before we make official.
No, I don't have any issues with the change. I mean, that's language that comes directly from that Ed Code, but I think the changes keep the spirit of that language there, so I would be good with that.
Okay.
Yeah, I just didn't like the additionally irrespective. Again, I was just trying to clean it up a little bit. So.
Okay. Before you go on, anyone have any comments on that section before we go on? Okay.
So I'll probably...
George was going to say something? Get your mic.
on 50/20 in total, or just?
No, just this
12?
section. Once we get through all her things, then
Okay.
if you have some comments, we can pop those in.
No, then I'm okay.
Okay. Because at the end, I'm going to have Marla make a motion that incorporates all of her changes, and then we can have the broader discussion. Okay? Okay, Marla?
So I guess, so the only thing I wasn't clear on was, I'm not sure if, again, we don't have, I guess, timely notifications, is that?
I think we're just mirroring the ed code on use of
Yeah, I
that
would say on
language.
that one, Marla, I mean, our counselors know if they were at clear and present danger, that's an immediate call to family,
Yeah.
law enforcement, and, first responders.
Which I know is in the suicide prevention.
Yeah, that would be pretty immediate,
Okay.
depending on the circumstances. I mean, it could be a, quick call to parent, but all the way to something more severe and urgent.
Okay, and then the last one, number 16, I would just suggest that we add, so to have access to the school records for their child, Cal Ed Code 51101, and to be notified anytime a change has occurred in the student's official or unofficial records. That's my only comment on that.
Yeah, I think FERPA already makes that
Yes,
distinction. So it's fine. I mean, that's what FERPA says.
That's what FERPA
Yeah.
says, yes.
Okay. So anyone have an issue with adding that? Okay, so what I'm going to ask you to do, because we just covered a lot of different things, I assume you have it all written down, right?
I do.
Can you hand me that copy so I can look at it while you're making your motion? I'm going to ask you to make a motion for all of these items at once, and then we'll...
Well, let me, okay, does anyone else have suggestions? Or did they all line up?
Well, we'll discuss after we make
Okay,
the motion, so
okay.
we're clear what we're doing.
Okay. I'd like to make a motion to change 11, 12, and 16. Would you like me to read them?
Yes, I think it's
Okay.
important so everyone out here understands what we're doing and that we have it on the official record.
Okay. I hope I have identical copies here.
I'll be watching while you do it, and I'll catch it.
All right, so 11 is to be notified on a timely basis if a staff member has submitted a referral regarding their child's academic, behavioral, physical, or mental well-being. 12 is to be notified in accordance with Cal Ed Code 49602C okay, sorry.
I see that.
To be notified when the child's counselor has a reasonable cause to believe disclosure is necessary to avert a clear and present danger to the health, safety, or welfare of the pupil or others in the community. And then any personal information shared by a student aged 12 or older during counseling as specified in California Ed Code 49602 is considered confidential. The disclosure of such information requires students' consent. It is the intent that school counselors encourage and assist the child to communicate more effectively and not withhold information from their parent guardians in order to support positive outcomes for the child's well-being and academic success. Ed Code 49602. And then 16 is to have access to the school records of their child, Ed Code 51101, and to be notified anytime a change has occurred in the student's official or unofficial records. We could probably write FERPA there too if we wanted to.
I think we're good there.
Okay.
So do we have a second on that motion?
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. So now we can discuss any issues with that or if we believe any additional changes need to be made. So I'm going to, George, I know you had something to say, so I'm going to let you start and then we'll work our way around the table, okay? Give this to, oh, no, not yet.
I mean, I don't have a, well, I guess I have more of a suggestion to bring up, my thoughts. On number 10, specifically the new part that says Mrs. Class time to meet with their counselor or visit the site wellness center. I agree with the first part. I think that missing class to meet with your counselor is something that a parent should be in on, because a lot of times when you're meeting with counselors, it's about your academic plan. So I think that sounds good to me, but visiting the site wellness center, a parent being notified when that happens, I feel like that kind of takes away a big point of the wellness center, is to have someone to go talk to. I know that people in public comment kind of talked about that, is that we've been taught as students that we can always go talk to teachers, and now in high school we've always been taught that we can go talk to our wellness center, which we put so much time, money, effort into. And then I not only think that this is going to discourage a lot of kids from wanting to go to wellness, but I think that it takes away a big aspect of it, which is just having somebody to go talk to without anyone needing to know, because sometimes you just need a vent, and sometimes you have problems that you're trying to figure out before you feel comfortable telling others in your lives, because in the end I feel like every student wants to make their parent happy, but sometimes it's hard to figure out how to do that, and I think that the wellness center is one of the best ways that a student can get help with that. So I think that notifying a parent when a student goes to visit the wellness center is one of the, it kind of takes away the whole point of the wellness center.
Okay. Any other student comments? All right, bringing it back to the board. Any comments on the policy amendments?
Well, I think the most important thing to point out with this is if the child is missing class and they are not receiving the education that the parents are assuming is happening when they're at school. I know personally I don't want to this isn't about discouraging kids from going at all. This is about missing class time, which Ed Code does say we are supposed to tell parents if they're absent, if they're tardy, if they're not where they're supposed to be. But I appreciate the passion that you have, and personally I'm not, this is where I know we were talking about if we're finding that unintended consequences, maybe we reassess what's happening. But I know I've asked many times, how many kids are missing class to go to the wellness center, and I hear such varying answers. I know, anyway.
Okay. Heidi or Ludmilla, any comments, or we're only talking about the amendments at this point, but.
I want to say that I support Marla's statements about the wellness center, and I also want to clarify your changes to number 12. So are you effectively replacing the current verbiage with the new verbiage that you stated? Or is it all being replaced?
I reworded it.
So we're not going to be using what's currently written, we're going to be using what you stated, correct?
Just this paragraph, right?
And the first one also.
Oh, yes.
Yes, so
it's replacing what's there now with that.
But the intent is still there.
Yeah, I like the new
Okay.
verbiage because it does incorporate what we currently have in policy. So I think it actually clarifies and streamlines it. So I like that part.
Okay, so I think we've exhausted the comments. So now we're going to take a vote just on these amendments as outlined, and I have in writing. Go ahead.
I don't know exactly where this will go, so if it's
Okay.
not right now, then that's okay. But I want to circle back to my idea from last month and the idea that Natalie brought up. I got an email from a teacher about it as well, with the option for parents to opt out. So if a parent does not want the notification, can they opt out? And if so, is that an administrative nightmare? And
so it really, we've been exploring that question. It's really going to be a matter of, can we pull that off in Aries? Is there a way to click a button somewhere where we can do that? We just don't know if we can do that yet or not, because it'll be tied to attendance.
I'm not sure if everyone could hear, so what he said is they're not sure if they can do that yet because of the way the system is, so that's something that they're looking at.
Yes.
Did I capture that properly?
Yes, we are exploring that.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, if you guys can't hear, just signal like you did, and I'll try and repeat. These are not the best microphones for this kind of meeting. I do think, though, if we were going to do an opt-out, it would be in another section, because we have a whole section about opting out on stuff. So maybe that's something we can initially handle administratively and then find if we need to incorporate it somewhere. Okay? So we're going to take a vote on this amendment. Yeah, of course. Just turn your mic on.
So I just kind of wanted to say one more thing about that. So when you guys responded to my concern about the wellness center, you said it's about students missing class time. So let's say that a student went to the wellness center either before school, during passing period, during their lunch, during intervention, or after school. That means that a parent would not be notified?
Yeah, it would not trigger a notification under this policy.
Okay.
All right?
Thank you.
Okay,
I don't
so-
know about intervention, just because of the way they've.
Oh, yeah,
they've-
intervention might be instructional
I don't.
time, so.
Well, now that, well, I know Granite Bay it's totally changed. Intervention is now different at every school, so I'm not sure about
So
that.
TBD on that, because that'll be an administrative figuring out. All right? All right, so I'm going to call for a motion on this now. All in favor of this set of amendments signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, I didn't hear any opposition. Give that to John. All right. It's probably the most paperwork John's ever gotten from a meeting. All right, we're going to move on to now our two completely new policies, so it's basically all red ink. Any commentary or changes on BP 5020.1? Go ahead.
This was a jumble of words. I had a tough time with this one. Again, the philosophy behind everything, I was looking at BP 5020 with the parent rights, and I was hoping to see something that would look similar, but, or just sound similar. And I think I was lost when it started talking about the aim of, protecting our democratic society and the rights and responsibilities are interdependent, mutually reinforcing. I just started, I tried to simplify it, so I do have some text that simplifies it, but pulling out some of the same sentences. So I didn't write new sentences, I just simplified. So I can read it. The Board of Trustees recognizes that students have certain rights as well as responsibilities related to achieving success in their education. These rights ensure their access to educational opportunities in a secure and respectful setting. The board desires to empower students with diverse opportunities to collaborate with the school community, ensuring that all students graduate well prepared for college, career, and life. The superintendent or designee shall ensure that the district staff understands the rights of students afforded by federal and state laws, as well as board policies, and follow acceptable practices that respect those rights. And that second section was actually copied from the parents section that I just moved over and shifted to the student section.
So I think the only thing that was substantially missing from that was the CIF stuff, and I don't know if that was brought in specifically because of the level of sports that we do, or John, I don't know if you have any. I think everything else kind of is captured by what you
I'm
said.
happy to add CIF to, let's see, district staff understand the rights of students afforded by federal, state, CIF.
So let's just ask John first. John, was there a specific purpose of that, or did that just?
Yeah, it's just tied in because so much of what the students do. CIF has so many policies that impact students. And again, we're really good with the changes. This was actually one of those, we had 520.1 AR, and we're like, I think we don't have a BP with this. So this was just kind of throw something on paper to see what sticks. So again, all the changes so far make sense to us.
Can I see your wording real quick, because it's easier for me?
Oh, I understand.
All right. So I would just suggest in your last paragraph where it says state laws as well as board policies, add a comma. Then we add in the CIF. I would like to just add those last few things. This California Constitution and bylaws, student body constitution and bylaws, as well as local school regulations. We just pull that back in. Is that okay?
That's fine.
Okay. John, you understand that? Yeah. All right. Okay, so we're only going to be talking about this. This is essentially substitute language rather than amended language. So I'll make the motion so that we get it. The motion would be to substitute the language on this document, which Marla just read for everybody, adding the language California Interscholastic Federation Constitution and Bylaws, comma, student body Constitution and Bylaws, comma, as well as local school regulations. That would be that change. So that's the motion. Does anyone have a second on that? Second. Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Now, any discussion on these changes, starting with my favorite student down there? Oh, he left me. Okay. Any board comments on this? All right, just in time. Here, before you go by. This is what we're going to vote on. So take a second and read it. And then if you have any comments, we're just going to pause a second so George has an opportunity, because I know he cares about these issues. Okay, go ahead.
So we currently have 3 paragraphs. Are we essentially striking the 3 and replacing it with the 2 there?
Yeah, okay. Substitution language. So George, that would basically substitute for what you have in BP 5020.1. So just simplifying it. You good, George? All right, just hand it to John if you don't mind. All right, so we have a motion and a second. I don't see any additional discussion, so I'm going to call for a vote on that. All in favor of this amendment signify by saying aye.
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 All right. Marla, we're closing in. But this is probably the one you have the most comments on, right? I didn't mean that in such a sarcastic tone. Yeah, I did.
You can be sarcastic.
All right, so 5020.1 AR. It's all yours.
Let me.
I brought snacks. It's going to be a long meeting.
Okay. As I looked at the parent rights and compared to the student rights, and again, I didn't have any objection to the heart of any of this, but the parent rights had ed code cited, and the student rights did not, and we're using the word should in everything, and it didn't read to me like it's a feel-good document, but it doesn't have the support of the ed codes listed, and so I struggled with what part is ed code and what part is the feel-good line. And
Just going to give some clarity to, I think, where the origins are, because I had this discussion with John.
Oh, you did?
Yes. I think I spoke with John and a few people on this, kind of how we got here. There's a number of organizations that have published student rights documents, whether it be the ACLU, LA Unified School District. I can't remember all the names, but there's like a studentrights.gov or .org type organization that has them. And my understanding that this is a compilation of sorts, or an aggregation of sorts of those different rights to be a little bit more comprehensive than just what was in ed code, because some of it comes from constitutional, which is not in ed code. And you can correct me, John, if I'm wrong with that. That was my understanding based on our conversations when we had this same discussion.
Yeah, working through all the rights, the problem is it's 50, 60, 70 pages we were trying to extract rights from. Because special ed alone would be 25 pages of ed code. And so we were trying to just kind of coalesce these from various different places and just kind of have these summary statements, because otherwise we wouldn't be able to get it on 1 or 2 pages. That was the challenge we had with it.
Okay. So I wanted, I'll again, not the mountain I'm going to die on, because, you know, I agree fundamentally with everything here. The number 3 was worded really unusually to me, because it made it sound like parents can't see, or their final course. Anyway, I'd like to suggest rewording number 3 just to fit more with FERPA, which is all students should experience and receive legally protected privacy in their education. The district will not disclose personally identifiable information in education records without the written consent of an eligible student, or if the student is a minor, the student's parents. And I just took the words from FERPA. And so I would suggest that we rewrite that so it fits FERPA. And then I wanted to add, going back to George's comments on from 470, actually it's the same paragraph we kept in 5020, but also add as the last item that any personal information shared by a student age 12 or older, that same paragraph that just talks about how they have the protection of the confidential.
Bringing that into here.
Yeah, bringing that into here too, because there wasn't anything that mentioned that here.
Okay.
And I can read that again if you want.
Well, I think we should for the public.
Okay. And so this is just pulled from the parent rights also. Any personal information shared by a student age 12 or older during counseling, as specified in California Ed Code 49602, is considered confidential. The disclosure of such information requires a student's consent unless the counselor has reasonable cause to believe disclosure is necessary to avert a clear and present danger to the health, safety, or welfare of the pupil or others in the community. It is the intent that the school counselors encourage and assist the child to communicate more effectively and not withhold information from their parent guardians in order to support the positive outcomes for the child's well-being and academic success. Ed Code 49602.
Okay. I just want to now that you read that, I just want to make sure we understand exactly which things we're changing in here. So you don't have to read them back, but just give us a synopsis or hand me the document of which ones we're addressing here.
Okay, and that I just need to nitpick one thing.
Okay, go ahead.
Sorry, in that first paragraph where it talks about these rights empower students to stay informed about the happenings in their high school, that, I don't know, is that like, that sounded like a news feed. I don't know, I would like to strike that just because it didn't make sense to me, but I'm nitpicking.
Are you talking about striking the whole paragraph or just replacing the word happenings?
Just to take out to stay informed about happenings in their high school. So it would just read, these rights empower students in their high school and safeguard their access to educational opportunities with the safe, I don't know.
How about instead, we change it to these rights empower students to stay informed and safeguard their access to educational opportunities. So we get rid of the about happenings in their high school, because that's kind of unnecessary.
Yep.
Does that sound okay?
Yes, it does. So when I pass this down to you, John, you'll need to keep that one little thing. Okay, so I just make that.
Before you do that, hand me one, because I want to look at it while you're saying it. Thanks. Okay, now you can kind of synopsize the changes that we've already discussed.
Okay, in the first paragraph, I would like to take out the about happenings in their high school.
Okay.
Number 3, I'd like to change the wording to all students should experience and receive legally protected privacy in their education. The district will not disclose personally identifiable information and educational records without the written consent of an eligible student, or if the student is a minor, the student's parents, FERPA. I have a long
the citation for FERPA.
For that.
And then adding it last, the one you don't have to reread that last big one.
Okay, and then adding a new one from number 15, parent rights and responsibilities. I think it's 15. Okay.
Yeah, it is. Okay, is everyone clear on the proposed amendments? Because I'm going to make a motion for what Marla just said. That's to strike a few words in paragraph 1, to change 3 as read and add 15 as read. That's a motion. Do I have a second? Second. Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Any comments from the ends? No. Any comments from board members? Okay, seeing none, I'm going to call for a vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Okay, and I said aye, you just didn't hear it. So that passed 4-0 with 1 absent. So now, where we are now is we still have the main motion to work on. So we have made a motion for staff's recommendation, and we have a series of amendments which have been read to the public, discussed, voted on, and provided in writing to the superintendent. Are there any other amendments before we get into final commentary? Okay, seeing none, would anyone like to have any discussion in addition to what we've had before I call for a vote? Particularly asking my student board members, anything you'd like to say? Seeing none. Board, seeing none. I now call for a vote on the main motion as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Seeing none, that passes on a 4-0, 1 absent vote. Thank you. I know that was long and painful, but I think it's important that when we're dealing with things of this complexity, we set up a process so that we can get through it. Everybody understands what we're doing. We have an ability to vet each individual change, and that everybody is clear what we voted on. I think I'll just double check to make sure, John, you're clear on everything we did? All right. So now the hard part comes up. You think it was hard getting here. The hard part is going to be implementing and operationalizing this. So all I have to say is good luck. All right, we're going to move through our agenda. We're going to get to a resolution. It's getting late, by the way. Oh, no, it's only 9 o'clock. We only have about 6 items left, so we're going to move through them fairly expeditiously. Resolution number 2314, recognize the importance of military service and honoring the district's veterans. Rob.
Yeah. I hope as we move into Veterans Day and recognizing our veterans that tonight's dialogue and conversation is not lost on everybody. You know, our veterans give tremendous sacrifices so that we have the freedom to do what we did tonight in here and have serious debate, serious dialogue where we do disagree at times. But hopefully through that process, we get to the best possible solutions and decisions. As we recognize Veterans Day tomorrow, with the official recognition on Saturday, we want to take a moment to recognize, honor, and celebrate the members, both past and present, of our armed services. In the Roseville Joint Union High School District, we are blessed to have 29 active and retired service members working across our district. While nothing we could say here or do here tonight will be enough to properly thank them for their service, we hope that this small token of thanks communicates the respect, honor, and high regard we hold for each and every one of the servicemen and women in our school district, around the country and around the globe. Each of them have helped make this world a better place because of the courage, sacrifice, and dedication given to our country and many others throughout the world. No words can ever express how much this service means to the rest of us. We want to say thank you for bravely doing what you were called to do so that we enjoy the many freedoms that we have. We are truly blessed as Americans because of the sacrifices of the brave men and women serving in our armed services. Finally, Abraham Lincoln said, "Any nation that does not honor its heroes will not long endure." Please take the time over the course of the next several days to honor our heroes with a simple thank you, a handshake, or words of support and encouragement. With that, staff recommends the approval of Board Resolution 2314, honoring military service.
Thank you very much. I would like to start by just saying Exhibit B. When you look at that, you can see literally hundreds of years of military service by our employees, and we are very thankful for that. Any comments before we take a vote?
I would only say thank you, like I'm sure everybody else wants to also.
All right, this is a resolution, so we're going to do a roll call vote. Well, first we're going to do a voice vote from our student board members. All in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? None. Voice vote, Marla.
Yes.
Ludmilla.
Yes.
Me, yes. Heidi.
Yes.
All right, that passes unanimously with one absent. I would just say to everyone, there's a lot of Veterans Day events occurring tomorrow and over the weekend. I encourage you to get out to as many of them as possible. I know we have several at our university. I hope everyone gets a chance to go out there and honor our veterans. We're going to go on to item 8.3. Brad, you don't have to say anything unless there's a change to what you have in here. And I would just say next year we're going to put this on consent. Anybody, not that I don't want to hear from you, but it's after 9 o'clock. So do we have a motion to adopt the calendar? Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to adopt the calendar. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. All right.
That's how it's done.
Thank you. All right, our next one is a public hearing. This public hearing is to seek an adoption of Resolution 2315 to permit interfund transfers in fiscal year 23-24. I know what you're going to tell us is this is a standard operating thing that we do each year so that we can manage our budget. Is there anything you need to add to that?
Nope, that's good.
All right. So we're going to open up the public hearing. Are there any members of the public that would like to address us on this particular issue? Seeing none, we're going to close the public hearing, and I was looking for a motion to adopt Resolution 2315.
I'll make a resolution to adopt.
All right, we have a motion to adopt the resolution. Do we have a second? Heidi, I see you reaching for it, so that's your second. All right, we're going to do a voice vote from our student board members. All in favor signify by saying aye. All right, and we're going to do a roll call. Marla.
Yes.
Ludmilla.
Yes.
Me, yes. Heidi.
Yes.
That passes on a 4-0-1 vote. We're now going to move into item 8.5. This is, what is this? This is our school's first plan administration 403B plan and related resolutions, and there's a bunch of them. Resolutions number 2316, 2317, 2318, 2319, and 2320. My understanding these are essentially routine agreements that we do so that our employees get the benefits they deserve.
This is a little different because we're proposing a different provider,
Okay.
third-party provider that we believe is going to provide us better service and at a reduced cost. And Schools First has really been providing additional services to our employees, and so we think this is a good move, and it saves the district funds and provides better service.
All right, just procedural. Can we take one vote, one motion on all the resolutions? Okay, the answer I got is yes. So I'm looking for a motion to approve resolutions 2316, 2317, 2318, 2319, and 2320. That means one of you. All right, Ludmilla made the motion. Second?
Second.
Heidi. Okay, we're going to start with a voice vote from our student board members. All in favor signify by saying aye. Roll call vote from the board. Marla?
Yes.
Ludmilla?
Yes.
Me, yes. Heidi?
Yes.
Those all pass unanimously with a 4-0-1 absent. All right, we are now going to Resolution 2321. This is a We Can Work 3-year grant application for the years 2024 through 2027. And just to make sure, we say we can work, we don't have to work, right? Okay, go ahead.
Yes, this is a grant agreement we've had for a number of years, which allows us to pay for some of our special education students to get work and to get experience. And so this is just an extension of that grant agreement allowing us to do that.
All right, we are looking for a motion on Resolution 2321.
I'll make a motion to approve Resolution 2321.
We have a motion to approve. Do we have a second? We have a second. Looking first to my student board members. All in favor signify by saying aye. All right, roll call vote. Marla?
Yes.
Ludmilla?
Yes.
Me, yes. Heidi?
Yes.
All right, thank you. That passes 4-0-1 absent. We are now on our final action item. This is item 8.7, Resolution 2322, School Territory Transfer Petition. We have one speaker. I'm going to ask the speaker to speak first. Julie, come on up, Julie. Sorry, this was last.
Hello, everyone. My name is Julie Lowe, and I live in the Aspire community.
Can you get a little closer to the mic?
sorry.
I can't hear you.
Hi, my name is Julie Lowe. I live in the Aspire community, and I have a son, Vincent, who is the light of our lives. I am begging you to please consider parent to consider your stance on our school territory transfer. The elementary school closest to us is 1 minute driving distance, or 8 minutes walking. The area that we are currently zoned for, Center Unified, is 8 minutes driving, and that's an is 8 minutes driving, whereas the other one is 8 minutes walking, 1 minute driving. We cross residential streets to go to the local elementary school, whereas to go to Center Unified, we have to go through major busy streets like Fittiman. I meet families at local parks that are within walking distance, the same parks that are visited by my neighbors across the street. We're making friends with kids in our community, not in communities that are 8 minutes driving distance. We walk to parks that are 2 minutes away, and those are the people that we are making friends with, and those are the people that our son should be going to school with. So please allow us to be part of our community and to attend the schools that are in our community. And I encourage you, all of you, to please Google Aspire Community so that you can see how close we are to these schools, and so that you could please reconsider that. Thank you.
Thank you. Joe, did you have anything to present to us? I'm sorry, Joe.
Let's see. I don't have anything really to add beside what's in the packet, but we have been attending the Placer County and Sacramento County hearings. I know we've got some feedback from the board members about concerns regarding the proposed transfer, and so this was a potential action the board could take, either support or an opposition. The committee did seem to, while they listened to the concerns that I had addressed that the board had brought to me, they did seem interested in wanting the board to consider giving a formal position one way or the other so that that can better direct them in how they addressed it.
Thank you. I'll start off on this. I can truly empathize with the situation. When I moved to Roseville and moved into the newest community, which was right on the edge of town, I had to drive my youngest to a school that was quite far away to get to elementary school. And then I've spent the last 10 years driving my kids from essentially just a little bit further than your neighborhood in the Fittiman Farm area to Oakmont here every day to bring my 5 children to school. And unfortunately, it's one of those things that happens when you move into a newer community. And I know it did put some strain on our family. Not as much as, say, the family across the street whose kids went to actually 3 different elementary schools because the new schools kept opening and the migration of students kept occurring. That being said, though, it was just a short number of years ago that these boundaries were negotiated. They had been set years ago and then renegotiated just a couple of years ago before the development of these neighborhoods. I'm intimately familiar with this neighborhood. My sister-in-law lives in this neighborhood, so I'm there quite often, and I hear quite a bit from her on this and related issues. But I think it's really important that we also recognize that when you look at the diagram of the petition area, that there are several more developments that are going to just keep continuing, and all of them will be in that center school district. And we are faced with a position of, if we make this change, which is contrary to what this school district and others negotiated a few years ago, are we setting a precedence to keep continuing with each development? And are we creating islands? As we know, there's an apartment complex that is permitted and approved and will be built, and this will essentially create almost an island out of that property. And we have an obligation, not just us, but governments in general, to create logical boundaries and to maintain those boundaries over time. In addition, we've identified a significant number of negative impacts to our district if this were to go through. So I think we have to balance, just like we were doing earlier, balancing all of the different issues. And I do believe that, as I say, I do empathize with the situation it puts people in who have purchased in this area, but we have a lot of other impacts that we have to consider. That being said, it's a very complicated process because what we say here can almost be irrelevant because we're not the deciding board on this. In fact, there's not one deciding board because of the multi-county jurisdiction between Placer County and Sacramento County. Nobody has final authority unless two different counties make the same decision, and that's what triggers the final decision. So what we're doing, if we are to pass this resolution, is we are expressing to the two decision-making bodies the impacts that this transfer will make upon our district. So we're in our role as trustees looking at the impact on our district and making that decision. So with that foundational, those foundational comments, is there any additional comments, or would someone like to make a motion?
Can I ask a
or
question?
what would you like to do? Yes.
Can I ask a question? So obviously, I, as a mom, I've always believed kids want to go to school with their friends in their neighborhood, and making kids change schools is really hard. So even if we don't change the boundaries, they're allowed to apply for an interdistrict transfer, correct?
Yes.
Like, we're not stopping them to allow to go to they may not be able to get into the school they want if West Park, I'm assuming this is, I'm so unfamiliar with this area. I think it's West Park, correct, that is closest? Or
West Park is closest, yes.
Okay. But let's say West Park is full, they could go to a different school. So we don't stop them from applying to go to a school in our district, correct?
That is accurate.
Okay. So that's still an option for them.
Yes.
It's really a matter of, do we want to redraw the boundaries?
Yeah, and yes, and I think we also have
Or
to be
support that anyway.
We also have to be conscious of the other discussion, which I know I've brought up a number of times. And I know we keep handling these big complex issues, but we do have to tackle the attendance imbalance in our schools, and boundaries could likely change as a result of that, because we have a situation where West Park is scheduled to be at capacity very shortly, and we have a real physical limitation there. The high likelihood is if this transfer does get approved, that students in that area, when they reach high school age, would not be able to go to West Park because of the impactedness from the current boundaries, and would be designated to go either to Antelope, Roseville, or Oakmont, all of which are further away than Center. But those are things that we don't know how that will end up, but we do know we have an impacted high school there. And we also have that complicating issue, which we've talked about a number of times, is that the attendance area for West Park is coterminous with a special taxing district that was created to fund the school. So we have sort of that community covenant there. So we have a lot of issues, but in the end we have to make a decision today, because the boards making the decisions have asked us to take a position for or against. The recommendation from staff is to take a position against based on these articulated impacts to our district.
Well, considering we're not stopping them to go to school in our district, I would make a motion, but I would not support. Sorry, let me look at this.
You have a motion.
A motion to
Adopt the resolution.
To adopt, thank you, to adopt the resolution to not support the change of boundaries. Thank you.
All right.
Word salad.
And that resolution is number 2322. Do we have a second on that? No, I'm sorry. You had your opportunity, so now it's our discussion time. I'm sorry that the public comment time is over. We can inform you at the end what we come up with. So we have a motion on the table, but I haven't heard a second yet. Do we have a second?
Can I make a quick comment or not?
Well, we haven't.
I can remove my motion.
Well,
if
you
you
can.
want.
Yeah,
Make
she'd
a
have to
comment.
withdraw her motion if you want to have a comment,
I will withdraw my motion if you have a
okay,
comment.
go ahead, make your comment.
All I was going to say was just that this was a tricky one for me because, like you, I was bused all around and had to go to a school. I lived in Stockton, but had to go to high school in Lodi. And then the new school opened up, and then I had to move to the school in Stockton, and your friends are displaced, and it is a really challenging thing. Helps you to be, a little resilient and make friends with everybody, but it is a difficult thing. So I have a lot of empathy for your specific situation, which then kind of prompted me to ask a bunch of questions about it. People at work have been asking me about it as well. And so I had to kind of weigh that emotional feeling about it versus all of the things that Pete mentioned. And so I just want to express sympathy around the entire situation. That was all. You can administer your motion.
I'll do it better without the word salad. So I would like to make a motion to support this resolution.
Okay. We have a motion to adopt resolution number 2322. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, so now that we have a second, do we have any comments from our student board members? Do we have any commentary from any of our other board members?
Just want to make one quick comment. I appreciate seeing the dollar amounts, like for example, how Center District will be affected. So thank you for that. Just shows the impact that that district would have if this were to go through.
Yeah, I think one of the big impacts we have to understand is everybody who bought a home there did pay a significant fee for schools, and those fees have gone already to the Center School District. So that's another one of the factors that I know I was weighing as we discussed this. So we have a motion and a second on the floor. I'm going to call for a motion. We're going to do a voice vote for our student board members. All in favor signify by saying aye. We have 3 ayes, and now we're going to go voice vote, or roll call vote.
Yes.
Starting with Marla, yes. Ludmilla?
Yes.
Me, yes.
Yes.
All right, so that passes on a 4-0 with 1 absent. If you have any questions, please talk to Joe, and he will address those for you. All right, we are coming in now. We were done with all our action items. Staff have any energy for any additional comments on this last item? I didn't think so. Pending agenda items, our next meeting is our organizational meeting on the 12th of December. At that time, we'll also be approving our board meeting dates and our financing corporation meeting and going over audits and interim reports, so it's going to be a busy meeting.
That's the 14th.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I read that backwards. It's the 14th day of the 12th month, not the 12th day of the 14th month. So with that, do we have a motion to adjourn? Oh, yeah, of course.
I just want to say one thing before we adjourn the meeting tonight. This is my 3rd year as a school board representative for Oakmont High School. This is going to be my last meeting ever.
You're not coming in December? I thought you came in December.
I don't have a meeting. It's my last meeting scheduled.
Why? Are you calling in absent?
When I looked at the schedule last, I wasn't.
No, you're coming.
Oh,
you're coming to
okay.
December meeting. We're not letting you go this easy.
All right. I guess I'll be back for one more, so I'll save this for next meeting then, guys.
All right. I made sure you were staying. Right. Otherwise, I would have already said something about you and probably showed some embarrassing photos. Oh, so, all right. With that, do we have a motion to adjourn? Nobody wants to leave?
Motion to adjourn.
All right. We have a motion to adjourn. Do we have a second? Second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right. Thanks, everybody. We're adjourned.